Good afternoon. This is Menina, and I am back. Today is November 1st. It is World Author Day, and today is Legacy BookBar's 1-year anniversary. Yay! So pre-COVID, I had this whole idea of what I wanted our 1-year anniversary to look like, and insert COVID, completely scrapped that whole idea. So instead of being a live event where my authors would come in and I would have a whole weekend of fun activities for them, we just decided to do it virtually. So 2-3 o'clock today, you will see a panel of authors today in multiple genres, and all of their books can be sold at Legacy Book Bar. All of our authors are Black. 75, if not 85% of the authors are self-published, and we have 3 self-publishing Black-owned publishing companies in Legacy Book Bar, and they as well will be on the show. So you're going to want to make sure you stay tuned today so you can hear all of the amazing things that Legacy Book Bar has to offer. This afternoon, I have the pleasure of having Bree Lynette, A.A. Lewis, Elena Simone, and Tiara Nicole as our first panelists for the book summit. Good afternoon, ladies.
Good afternoon. Hello, everyone.
Hi.
And I must say, I have the best looking authors on the planet. I love it. Absolutely love it. So, I haven't probably seen any of your faces in person, thanks COVID. So it's been a lot of Zooms, a lot of podcasts. So how has everybody been?
I've been really good. Just focusing on, being a better me, working out more.
Right. I've been seeing you went on a couple of hikes over the last month or so.
Yes, I found a new hobby.
Okay. I'm not about that life, but I love to see other people do it. I'm not going in the elements. I'm not going to be able to do it. I commend you for doing it. So, and wait, congratulations, because I think also you are probably one of the newest authors that signed within the last month. So welcome to the Legacy family. Yes.
Thank you. I'm excited.
Yes. So you actually self-published through Divine Legacy Publishing, and that publishing company is going to be later on in the show. So as I'm telling the guests as they're tuning in, that not only are you self-published and Black, of course, you also came from a Black-owned self-publishing company. So when you purchase anything from Legacy Book Bar, it is legit a trifecta of Black-owned, Black authors, Black-owned for Legacy, Black self-published author, and then the publishing company is Black-owned. So you will hit a trifecta with certain authors here at Legacy Book Bar. So that is amazing in its own right. So congratulations.
Thank you.
I have my girl, A.A. Lewis. I can just call her at a moment's notice, and she's like, girl, I got you. What you need. I love her. She has been here since 2019, and all I had to do was put something out on social media and was like, I'm looking for authors, any genres, it doesn't matter. And she's like, oh, I got 3 books. Whoa, really? 3 whole books? Okay. She was like, I'm gonna send it to you. Don't even worry about it. And lo and behold, when I published on February the 1st, her 3-book series was the first to publish to the store. So thank you and welcome back. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me back.
Absolutely. And then I have Elena Simone, who actually I met her the day I published the bookstore at the Baltimore Black Book Expo. And I went to all of the tables. I dropped cards off everywhere. I'm like, Black-owned bookstore owner, I just published. I'm looking for authors. Are you interested? She was like, absolutely. I think she was in by the end of the week. She was ready to go. So thank you so much and welcome back, because you were also one of the guests on the Sip and Chat. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Of course. Then I have Tiara Nicole Riley, who as well is from Divine Legacy Publishing, and she has said, hey, anyone outside that wants to participate, please feel free to send me an email. And she's like, oh, hey, I'll do it. Absolutely. So welcome to the Legacy family, Tiara. Thank you so much for being a part of the Book Summit.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, ladies, this new normal of COVID been a little crazy and nuts for us. We haven't had our book vendings that we were anticipating having this year. A lot of pop-ups got canceled. How have you ladies been dealing with this?
Well, I know me personally, I took this time to really write. Anytime that I had a free moment to get some of these characters out of my head, a lot of my readers have been asking for me to continue the 716 series. So I gave that some thought and have just been writing and trying to perfect my craft, because as a self-published author, I always want to carry a sense of professionalism in my writing and how I present that. So just boning up on what that means for me and my brand. And hopefully in 2021, when the new books do get released, things will start to open up and we can get back on the trail and start selling to a whole new group of readers that we've probably all acquired since COVID. Because when you're stuck in the house, what are you going to do but read? So hopefully this will give us an opportunity, and myself an opportunity, to really start engaging some of those new readers.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I must say that. Go ahead, Tiara.
I was just going to also answer that question. First and foremost, I apologize for my background. I'm registered in Maryland, live in North Carolina, so I had to go exercise my right to vote, in person. I don't trust the Maryland shenanigans. I don't. So I am literally halfway down the highway. I apologize. But I will say one thing that COVID has taught us is learning how to pivot and be flexible. The thing we learned in 2020 is that you cannot control everything. And so as a business owner, I'm learning to not only be more flexible in approach, stay committed to the dream, but flexible in how I'm going about that dream, and understanding what's important and what's a priority. So there have been some things that I've had to let go in 2020, and there's been some things I've decided to pick up or pick back up in 2020, and just understanding what's most important to me as a human and as a business owner. How can I best serve my audience in the most efficient way possible? Menina, I think you're still muted.
So I had a whole sentence and was completely muted myself. Why not? Oh, well, okay. So I was just saying that how I muted everyone else, because Tiara had a lot of feedback and I wanted to make sure that people that were tuning in had an opportunity to hear her. But then, of course, I muted myself and completely forgot I muted myself, and I'm the moderator. Duh. Oh, well. So I to piggyback off of Lewis, I agree. In this new normal, everyone has had to go back to kind of old school reading and getting back, because after you've used and abused technology and you've gone through every video game and you've watched everything on Netflix and Hulu, then what do? You, of course, go back to reading, and that love of reading comes back, which being an online store has helped some, because it's, well, where can I get something new? Where can I get something different? And then you find yourself searching and you find. So that's been the small blessing in the midst of COVID. But it still sucks because I can't go outside. So, so I do kind of miss outside, but I'd rather be safe and alive than outside. So here we are. Bree, how have you been in this new normal?
I've taken advantage of things I can control. So I've been doing more podcasts, things that you can do in the home, going live. Before publishing the book, I wasn't huge on social media, even though I'm young. I know it's weird. So I've been brushing up on those skills and just making sure that I'm staying engaged with my social media followers. So I figured at least if I can build that up, work on my website, when the world does open back up, I'll be ready.
Absolutely. And what about you, Elena? Wait, unmute. Wait, you're muted and I can't unmute her. That is hilarious. She muted herself and I can't.
Okay.
There we go.
Never mind.
Slight technical difficulties. I do apologize.
Right. The same thing, just about still doing a lot of doing a lot of reading and writing, and mainly just being more engaged with my social media following, because I hadn't realized at first how huge that platform is. So I've been doing a whole lot more engagement, and just like the last week, I think I've gotten about 2,000 new followers, which is crazy. And
Amazing.
I'm just being more engaged with that. And like I said, trying to finish up the book because it's supposed to come out this year. But with the COVID and everything, it kind of screwed up even the printing companies with trying to move stuff. So that's been my main focus, just trying to do that, ordering supplies to be able to ship stuff, just pretty much busy work. Anything I can do to stay, busy while I'm in the house, because I too am not going out there if I don't have to. So that's been the premise right now.
Absolutely. So as the audience knows, all of these ladies, they're except for Tiara, but we're working on it. Cross my fingers. You can purchase their books at www.legacybookbar.com. So Bree, you are one of my newest ones. Let's talk a little bit about your book and let's get some feedback on it.
Okay, great. So the title of my book is They Told Me to Love My Abuser. And it's a memoir about my life growing up in an abusive home, how that affected me. I really wanted people to hear about it from the standpoint of the child, because usually the child doesn't have a voice. And I wanted, parents to understand that children just want loving parents. And if that means loving parents need to be separated, then that's fine. But I also want to challenge people to understand their triggers. So when I got older, I realized that some of my friends would say things like, "Oh, you're always overreacting." There was always something I was doing where they couldn't understand why I would get to that level of anger. And for me, everything was the last straw. I had been through so much, I couldn't take anything else. So I'm showing people, I wrote it in present day. So I'm showing people how your triggers from your past can resurface and it can cause issues. So the book is written in present day. You're going to see flashbacks to childhood while I'm in therapy. And it really helps people on different levels. So not just with domestic abuse, it can really help you with anything that you're going through, because it can show you how everything has an impact on your life.
Gotcha. Okay. So everyone knows, I shout out my authors all the time, and A. Lewis is our top author for fiction. Even though we have one of our authors that's on the pre-show, Lewis. So my authors are so amazing. So Arthur Lewis, tell us a little bit about the 716 series.
So the 716 series, let's start off. The 716 is the area code for Buffalo, New York, which is where I'm originally from. The series takes place during the 90s. It is a total fusion of the 90s street culture and music. I love music, and I believe that music is the story of our lives. So what I did with the 716 series is I took a storyline of four female best friends, and their quest to find love, and how sometimes searching for love leads us to love individuals who may not be healthy for us. And through this journey of sisterhood, these four women learn a lot about themselves, a lot about the men that they choose to love, and then also the consequences that sometimes comes along with the choices that we make, both good and bad. So the series, like I said, starts in the early 90s. By the time you get to book 3, you will have reached the early 2000s. And in contrast, you're going to follow that through music. So each chapter of the book is set to a certain song from that decade or that year. And what I'm trying to do is get you to not only connect to the characters, but also take you on a musical journey all your own. Because we all know that when we have flashbacks of our favorite songs and, our jams come on the radio, we go, oh, I remember what I was doing when that song came on. And you get that feeling and it's nostalgic and you feel a certain way. Well, this book is designed to take you on that type of a journey, an emotional connection to how music influences us, but also how it relates to these characters and how they respond to each other. So it's an in-depth look at the culture of the 90s, whether or not we can love and endure these consequences, but just the unity and the strength of having a deep sisterhood. Because I think the connection between the ladies and how they're able to support each other no matter what's going on is still so relevant today. Just having that core group of individuals that have your back. And the fact that it's set to some really great music is a total plus. So to me, that's the 716 in a nutshell. I don't want to give anything away for anyone, but if you're into good series and you love music, and it is a street novel, so if those are things that interest you, the 716 is definitely something that you would want to read.
That is definitely a fan favorite here in Baltimore and the DMV. I get DMs when people purchase them at the mall and says, does this book come with a soundtrack? And I'm like, it does. I don't necessarily sell the soundtrack, but if you want to send me your email, I'll be office for you. That is, I think, the top comment is the soundtrack. Yes.
There's people in my DM all the time or on IG who will say, hey, I heard that you have the soundtrack, and I send it out all the time. I personally clean and cook to the soundtrack. So like I said, if you're into Mary J. Blige, if you're into like Guy came out, if you liked reggae in the early 90s, it's in there. By the time you get to book 2, if you like the hardcore sound of rap and hip hop, I got it all. I got songs that you'll love to hate and songs that you hated to love, but it's all in there. And it just gives you a good feeling. So you don't have to like or want the books. The soundtrack is worth you connecting with me all in itself, because it's hours of really good music.
It is. I know. Now I told this in the pre-show. I tell everyone I am an avid reader, so I read everything. Not just because I'm the bookstore owner. I just like to read. So when I get new books in, I'm like that kid, like, oh, I got a new book. I gotta sit down. I gotta read it. And then, of course, I read the first 3 chapters, and I read hers, and I was like, wait a second, this chapter and I realized that after I really was engaged in the book, I realized that the song titles matched what was going on in that particular chapter. So then by the time I got to the end of book 1, I found myself on YouTube finding the videos of the songs that was in book 1, completely got off schedule, forgot what I was supposed to do. I had a whole 90s concert in my living room to book 1. Then I realized, oh wait, book 2 was like this. Book 3 is like, I said, all right, well, I'm clearly not working this weekend at all because I have to now find the music. And she was like, oh no, girl, it's a whole soundtrack. I got it. Clutch Pearls, please send it to me so I can have it. And now it's legit on Saturday Clean repeat so I can clean my house. No joke. Like, and that's just as a fan. That is not even as a bookstore owner. That is just as a fan. Actually, her book club was probably the livest, where we couldn't go into books 2 and 3, even though most of us had already read 2 and 3. We were only talking about 1. I now, by fan request, have to do a book club to do all 3 books, because books 2 starts exactly where book 1 ends, and the same with book 3. And a couple of people on it didn't read book 2, so we were like, but remember in, oh crap, they didn't read that book, hold on a second. So she's actually going to have to get a whole separate book club so we can really just talk about the entire series as a whole, have the music playing on Zoom, because we're going to need a whole sister moment. It was great. So that's coming in 2021. So be on the lookout for that, as well as the soundtrack. So you're going to want to make sure you share with your family and your friends, because that's going to be live. So just be prepared. Elena, tell us a little bit about Concrete King, my dear, which, if people have noticed, Concrete King was actually our book of the month, one of our book of the months for October. So that was a good book club too. So Elena, tell us about yours. You're muted. Unmute. Is that me? No.
I don't know why it keeps doing that. It keeps doing it on its own. Concrete King is a book that I actually started writing 20 years ago. I got nervous about it, put it on the shelf, didn't touch it up until about 2017, 2016. Started getting back into it. And the theme and the whole premise of the book is you have this woman who's career driven. All she's ever done is work, and do what she need to do, pay her bills, all of that. No love life, really. All of her friends pretty much just living their life. One night she meets this guy, and it just seems like this is this whole love at first sight thing. She falls head over heels for this guy, but finds out later that he has a secret that she didn't know anything about. And then she has to make a choice on whether or not she goes with her heart or her head, and how she goes forward in the relationship. And it basically brings in so many different dynamic characters into this one story, to the point to where you even said that I could go in and pull out 4 or 5 other books for the characters. And it's like, I was surprised when it came out how much I heard about it and how many people, felt the way. Because, when we write, we feel good about it once we put it out there. But what we want is the reaction from the audience that we're projecting this story to. And so for me to get people that's telling me, oh, this is my story, or I've dealt with this, or I had a friend that dealt with that, I just didn't know that type of situation. I know it happens, but I just didn't know how many people would be able to find a character that they pretty much bonded with throughout the story and just follow that character. But now, similar type thing, I'm getting text messages, DMs, all types of stuff threatening me about when I'm going to release the second book, because I left it on a cliffhanger type situation. And I'm just saying,
I think I was one of the ones that threatened her a little bit. I'm just going to say, I'm sorry. I was probably one. I'm sorry. I mean, not really, but, I'm just saying. I got to the end. It was like, where the rest? And it was no rest. I have to wait like everyone else. And I'm a brat, and I didn't want to wait. So, sorry.
It's bad because it's like, it's my mom. It's like, what do you say to your mother? Like, you can't say, look, I'm doing. She's like, well, you're not doing enough. You need to do this time of day. You need to set times. Like, she was telling me to set a schedule, and so I can get this done. And it's, for me, I have to be in that right place. I'm sure everyone is like that when they're writing. You have to be in that right mindset. Mine has to be clear, because when you're pulling these characters out of your head, you don't want anything coming in between what you mean to portray on these pages, as whatever you're going through during that time. You want to make sure you have the characters still in line with the way they are. So if I'm not feeling it, I won't touch it, because then all you wind up doing is have to come back and take it all out and then go all back in there. So if I don't feel it, I won't touch it. But it's almost done. It will be out by the end of the year. That's my word. It'll be out by the end of the year. But I wanted it to be out sooner, but COVID just shut it down. It's like nothing was printing, nothing was going anywhere. So now hopefully we can get it done and get it out, because even my editor is threatening me.
Well, we don't want to piss off the editors, because
Right.
they're vitally important. I was telling the panel in the pre-show, my authors know, especially the ones that have been with me the longest, they know I am a fan. It's kind of bad to say like a fan first and bookstore owner second, but that legit is me. And I get so invested in the stories and the characters. And I know I was one when we did your book club. I was like, now look, this character right here, she need a whole backstory. I can see it in my head. I don't want to write it, but I can see it. I know it's going to be a good one. I just need that in my life. So if you could make that happen, that'd be great. It is. I mean, I just get so invested because I know, regardless if you like a particular genre or not, if you like a good story with a good plot, with the meat and the potatoes, you will like that book, regardless if you are an urban fiction fan or street lit, depending on who you're talking to. The meat, potatoes, the plot, the characters, if it's a good fleshed out story, you might start to like a particular genre, or maybe just I'm gonna follow this particular author because I like how they write in this genre, but I don't want to read anybody else. I have gotten that quite a lot.
Yeah.
And it happens, that's how anybody try a genre, try an author once, because you never know. And maybe try it again, because I don't like every romance author, but I like romance novels. So I'm not going to stop reading an entire genre because this one didn't really flesh that out a little bit. So I'm going to throw the genre away. Like, who does that now? Readers going to read, they're going to pick up the next one and then the next one. And you have to just keep going. And that's just how it works. And I'm sorry if I have threatened any of my authors, but y'all books is just so good. And I can't help it. So I'm just saying, help me out. Like, let me get that up off y'all. But no, it's great. Tiara Nicole, I have. I'm sorry, let me say it right. Tiara Nicole Riley, I have. She is not a Legacy BookBar author, but she is published under Divine Legacy Publishing, who has several of their authors that are signed to Legacy BookBar. So, Tiara, tell us a little bit about your books.
Yes. Hello. And again, thank you for having me. So my name is Tiara Nicole Riley. Tiara Nicole. They're all my given names. So it doesn't matter, honestly. I'm on all social media platforms at Tiara Nicole Riley. So you can find me there. Just to give you a little bit of information I have 3 books. Number 4 will be out before 2020 is over. Super excited about that. But book number 1 is 23 and Finally Loving Me. This book is a story about self-love, healing, growth, development, unpacking baggage, etc. I am not 23 anymore. That is when I wrote the book. I do get that question often. I'm just like, no, I'm not 23 anymore. But even though I wrote it at 23, it is definitely something I think a lot of people can relate to. It's very transparent and open. So there's at least one chapter that you like, yeah, that was my life. Maybe not the whole thing, but there's at least one section where you were like, yeah, I understand. Then my second book is called When Life Gives You Lemons. And this is a story about perseverance. So it really talks about, like, what do you actually do in those sour moments in life? How do you persevere through life's challenges? How do you keep going when you really want to give up, right? And then my third book is called Life After Loss. It is a story about surviving the grief of miscarriage. So in 2016, I miscarried twins. And in that moment, it was so difficult to find genuine resources. A lot of information available talked about how common it is, but then it also talked about it takes time. And I'm an action-oriented person. I just can't passively wait by and just hope things get better. So after I kind of come to the tail end of that grieving process, my mother challenged me to be the resource that I was looking for. So this book provides tangible step-by-step suggestions on how you can survive the grief of miscarriage, but also how to support people through their process. Because I also realized there wasn't a lot of information for my mother, my grandmother, my sister, or anybody who was hoping for healthy babies and ended up with angels, because we all have a grieving process to go through, not just the mother. And unfortunately, it happens to 1 in 4 women. And so not just the women, but the father of that baby, the aunts, uncles, grandparents, godparents, cousins, sibling, like anybody connected to that baby then has a grieving process to go through, but then no one talks about it. So this book really gives, it's an attempt to give a resource on how, not just it takes time, but what can you do to actually unpack some of that grief and create a healthy life after loss. And all books are available on my website at tiaranicoleriley.com.
And hopefully coming soon, legacybookbar.com. Shameless plug.
No problem.
So, ladies, as we're coming to the end of our segment, I want you all to give your best advice on what you tell the next aspiring author that's looking to write their novel in, whatever genre they decide to choose. What's something you would give them? Lois, I will have you start first. Okay. Muted.
Okay, there we go. I always lead with just do it. My whole thing is everybody has a story. Mm-hmm. And it's up to you to just write your story. Absolutely. And you never know, by penning that, taking your thoughts and your feelings and putting that onto paper or in a computer, and putting it out into the world, who else you're going to inspire by what it is that you've overcame or what stories you're choosing to share. If you don't do that, if you procrastinate, if you keep saying no one's going to be interested, or who am I to write anything, you are denying all of us, the rest of this world, the opportunity to learn something new, to be, challenged to think differently, and then be able to feel like I'm not alone in certain situations. So just do it. Your story matters, even if it's not, even if it's a fictional tale. Your story still matters because it came from you. So just do it. And there's so many resources out there right now for individuals who would like to self-publish. But it all starts with getting it out of your head and putting it to pen and paper. And once you do that, then the process starts. But you gotta do it. You've got to start somewhere. So don't deny me and the rest of my lovely lady authors the opportunity to support you, but more importantly, to read what you have to say. So just do it. Like, it's never too late to do it. Just go ahead and do it today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Nini, for your participation today on the book summit. I love you to death. You're just a big supporter of everything that Legacy does, and I'm just so humbled to have you here with us. Thank you. Bree, same question.
I would like to piggyback off that. I would definitely say just have the audacity. I think sometimes people are afraid to just put themselves out there. I know, especially with the topic for my book, a lot of people said it was courageous. But at some point, you have to only focus on you. And it's okay to be selfish sometimes if you want to get your story out there. And don't worry about the people who you feel like won't support you, who won't like your book. Because for every one person who doesn't, there's going to be 10, 20, thousands of people that do. So I wouldn't focus on the negative. But I would also say enjoy the process. I know for me, I quit writing at least 4 times because I was overwhelmed. I got writer's block. I was afraid of what to write, but it's okay. It's your timeline. It's your deadline, and it's going to be okay. Just stick with it and you'll be fine.
Thank you so much, Bree. As everyone knows, Bree is one of our latest signees to Legacy Book Bar. Her book is on the website. All of these ladies, you'll be able to get their books at legacybookbar.com. You ladies were amazing. Thank you so much for participating. Elena, I have the same question for you. What's your advice to the next author? And you're muted.
Okay. Well, I think I said this, and I think I said it when we did the sip and chat, and it's the same thing that I tell people all the time, and is don't compromise your art. The bottom line is whatever you choose to write about, however you choose to write about it, stick to that. I see it so many times. As soon as someone moves and transitions from one space to another, you can see the change and you can feel the change, and even how what they're putting out, to the audience at that point. And I just say stick to what you love and what you are passionate about writing, whether it be fiction, whether it be adult, children, whatever. You can do it all, but don't compromise it. Make sure that you stay true to who you are as a writer and as a storyteller. So that's the main thing. Don't compromise that.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And again, Elena is one of our seasoned vets here at Legacy Book Bar. You can get Concrete King, the 716 series, and They Told Me to Love My Abuser at www.legacybookbar.com. Thank you so much, Elena, for participating at the Book Summit. Tiara, last but not least, what's your advice to the next author?
Absolutely. So within my role as motivational speaker, I always try to give tangible and actionable advice. So I definitely agree with everything these ladies have said. But one challenge I've heard a lot when people are trying to write their book is they kind of get writer's block. So one tangible piece of advice for getting through that, I would say start with an outline for your book. So understand what chapters you want to write. And don't feel the pressure to write in order. Sometimes chapter 3 is going to motivate you more than chapter 9, and that's okay, as long as you already start with the outline and a flow of how you want the book to go. You're not going to skip a step. So, because if you're at chapter 3 thinking about chapter 9 and you're like, oh, but I got to get through 3 through 8 first, like that's how you're going to get stuck in your head. If you are motivated to go to chapter 9, go with it. And just make sure that eventually you come back to chapter 3. But don't allow yourself to get stuck there. Having that outline allows you to ebb and flow wherever your motivation is at that moment.
Absolutely. Thank you so much again. Now, Tiara Nicole Rowley's books are not at Legacy Book Bar, at least not yet. So if you were inspired by any of her titles of her books, send us a DM so we can say, hey, girl, some people want your stories in the bookstore, and maybe we can fast track getting her books into the bookstore. We have some amazing comments in the comment section. Maureen Mace, who is a Legacy Book Bar author, she will be on later this afternoon. She said, Lewis, she needs that soundtrack to the book, to the 716 series. She also said, yes, I am, and I totally understand. And I think that was one of the comments I believe that Bree made, as far as knowing your purpose and going with the flow and having writer's block, but just working through that. Karen said, oh, wow, excellent idea, how to deal with loss. I agree. So many people don't know how to deal with it and what resources they can get. So that is inspiring. I do commend you for writing that. Malachi Bailey, he was on the pre-show as well as the Sip and Chat on Friday. So he said, hello, ladies, and hey, y'all. I just commend all of my authors for being a part of the book summit and supporting one another through the podcast, through the Sip and Chats, and today through the book summit. You ladies were great. Thank you so much. And I will see you guys at the next Zoom. Oh, wait. So in the pre-show, I told myself at the panel, I'm going to host a virtual holiday something where I'm going to do a private event with just our authors, because I want really the authors to see one another within the group so we can get comfortable with sharing through social media And I want us to really be family oriented. So I'm going to do something for just us through Zoom, and I'll send that out right around after Thanksgiving. So keep that in mind when I start sending out some dates for you guys, okay? Thank you so much, ladies, for participating. You have a great day. Send me text messages on the football scores because I'm not going to be able to watch football today. So keep me posted on what happens today, okay? Thanks, guys. You guys have a great one. Audience, say thank you to our panel. They were awesome. Thanks, ladies. And we are going to get ready for the next group that is coming in. So let's welcome in Nisha Brown and Donna M. Ramos. Hello, ladies. Welcome to the Book Summit.
Hi, thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Hi, hey, darling, how are you?
Good.
Hey,
how are you doing?
How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. Hi, ladies. How are you?
Hey, how you doing, Nikki?
I'm doing good.
Hi.
So, ladies, how is it? First off, let me say welcome and thank you for participating in the Book Summit.
Thank you.
Here. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, everyone that's tuning in, I know hopefully you ladies had a chance to share. I'm going to mute some of you, but I feel like it's a little bit of a backdrop or feedback. And welcome, help me welcome Maureen Mays. She is here. There she is. I see her. Okay. Thank you, ladies, again for participating in the Legacy BookBar Book Summit. Today is our 1-year anniversary and it's World Author Day. So congratulations, you guys. This is your day. So hopefully everyone's had a chance to share the broadcast to your own personal and business author pages. So viewership will keep going. For those that are following Legacy Book Bar, we're going to be here until 3 o'clock. The panels are going to constantly change, and you'll get a chance to see all of the authors that are associated with Legacy Book Bar. Their books can be purchased at www.legacybookbar.com. We're going to talk to this group of ladies, and we're going to hear their who, why, what's, I don't know, of their journey into this book industry. So, welcome. I have Donna M. Ramos, I have Nisha Brown, I have Maureen Mays, and I have Nikki Cheris. Hello to my wonderful panel.
Hello, hello.
Yes, yes.
Hello.
So, ladies, how has it been in this new COVID craziness world that we're in today? Nisha, I will have you go first. I can mute everyone else.
Okay. Definitely crazy. Definitely, a different experience. Obviously we can't, get together like we used to or have like super big author signing events, but it's really good, just to kind of push forward through it in this craziness.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Donna, how about you? I know you're all in Cali, so I know it's been probably really crazy over there if the news is telling the truth of the numbers going on over there.
Yeah, it's a lot of the fires. I'm fortunate I'm not close to them. I'm close enough that when they're really bad, we get to smoke and I wind up with even ash on my car. But I'm fortunate that I don't have to worry about my house being in danger of, being engulfed in flames. But of course, you feel bad for people who do go through that. Other than that, like Nisha said, we've been trying to figure ways to get our books in front of people, and we came up with the idea to actually do a book signing, out-of-doors book signing, and a sidewalk shopping the end of September in my driveway, and it went very well.
Okay.
You just gotta come up with stuff. You got new books coming out. You can't do a book signing, but you got to get the books out there to people. So then we had a really good time, and it actually went way better than I thought it was going to go. I think everybody just wants to get out of the house. So we had a lot of
Absolutely.
people, come through. We had the hand sanitizer. We were outside. We had the tables, socially distanced. People wore their masks, so it went really well.
Oh, well, that's good. I know this in COVID, everyone has had to kind of put that creative head on and figure out how to redo a lot of things that they probably weren't thinking of because everyone could go outside. And now insert COVID, and now you're literally having to remarket yourself because who would have thought a global pandemic would just go through and just knock everything off the shelf, and now you got to kind of restart everything. It's so crazy. But as long as we know people are in the house, they need to do something. And reading now is everyone's like, oh, well, maybe I'll read a book. And now everyone is rediscovering the joy of reading again. So that's a good thing for us. That is the small positive in the midst of a global pandemic. So here we are. Nikki, what about you? You're muted.
Oh, I was like, am I still on mute? Yeah, no, it's been interesting. I think what has been really cool, really dope about this time is that it's given me an opportunity to be a bit more personal with some of my readers. So, I've been invited to different book clubs. So versus doing like the signing, different book clubs have reached out and said, hey, would you mind coming to, talk to our group, or would you mind joining our book club this night or whatever? And it gives me an opportunity to kind of talk to people who I don't get a real opportunity to talk to on a regular basis, because when you're at a larger book signing, you don't really get a chance to like spend a lot of time with a lot of the people that are coming to support you. So now that we're virtual and I've been invited to join different people's books clubs to talk about the books or to introduce that I have something new coming out, I feel like it's really given me a chance to be a bit more personal. I don't know if that's something that we would have been able to do before COVID or something that people thought about before COVID. So I can say that has definitely been a positive with how we've been operating or how I've been operating. And I actually like it. I think it's something that I hope that I can continue to do even after things kind of get back to normal. Just because I like that. I like being able to engage with new people and talk to new people and get ideas and feedback on, how people think of my novels and stuff like that. So I like it. I like it.
So for those that follow Legacy Book Bar, everyone knows that, we host monthly virtual book clubs. And actually we've been doing that since, I want to say, right at March, but before we realized what was going to happen in March. That was always the plan. And then, of course, as we realized that we were not getting out of this pandemic era anytime soon, it actually wound up benefiting because, like you said, they weren't being asked to do book clubs. That wasn't a thing anymore. Of course, due to Amazon and everything, we weren't having those book signings as often as we were having into the 90s and the mid 90s, because a lot of the smaller independent bookstores were closing. So now it's like, now we can do this. Now we can kind of do virtual book signings. At least I can, because, I get all of your books. So I can say, look, we're going to do a virtual book signing, sign 10 and send them to me. And then as we do something virtually, as orders come in, we can just send them out and they're already signed. So that's one of the things, having to have an idea, but now think outside of that box, because insert COVID. I know Maureen and I were talking a couple of weeks ago, and she is my poet. She is fabulous, darling. And I said, I want to do a poetry slam jam. So of course, that's something that people would love to go to. That's a thing, spoken word and poets, and people want to be in the moment, but COVID. So now what do? So now it's like, okay, we're going to have to work together, and we're going to have to figure out how we can do this virtually so people can have a little bit of normalcy in this crazy world that we're having. So, Maureen, I'm actually going to throw it back to you. Give us your feedback. And you're muted. You're muted. There we go.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Happy National Authors Day, ladies. it's good to just be in this forum with you all because, like you stated, well, you all stated, it's very different now with COVID because not only are we dealing with the pandemic, but, we're dealing with racial injustices, the voting and just dealing with life on life's terms. And if you have children, virtual learning, and this is different. And one of the things that I've been doing is writing because I am a writer. I do have a novel, but I'm also a poet. And that's one of my just kind of self-care therapy is to be able to write those emotions out and put it on paper. So I have been writing a lot, and I've also been reading a lot too. So that's also been great to do.
And that's amazing. And also, ladies, Maureen is one. Anything that Legacy posts on social media, she will repost, retweet, share. She is famous for supporting the authors within Legacy Book Bar. And I know she hasn't even met all of you, but that whole family oriented, like, oh, they part of Legacy, bet. Let me get Twitter fingers going. Let me share. And that's what I like to hear about. And I love to see it, is that family interaction, because we are only going to get as far as the next author, the next publisher, the next bookstore owner takes us. And that's one of the reasons I created Legacy Book Bar, because I sensed that need, that our stories needed to be told. Whatever the genre was, it needed to be told. We are just as talented, just as beautiful, just as articulate, just as eccentric as any other race. So why aren't our books visible? So instead of being mad all the time, I just created the solution to me being angry. And that was creating Legacy Book Bar. Here we are 1 year later, our 1 year anniversary. And look at us, a panel discussion of talented, Black, beautiful men and women across the board that are able to tell their stories. And this is what it's all about. So from me to you, thank you so much. So I'm going to actually drop the ball. I'm going to go back to Nisha. Nisha is not signed to Legacy, at least not yet. So I'm going to have Nisha tell us a little bit about her book. And Nisha, you are muted.
Yes, thank you so much. First of all, happy National Authors Day, everybody. I didn't even know that was a thing, so I must have been under a rock somewhere for days. But so basically, I just came out with a new book. It's called Lesbian Love is the Trillist book. I'm an urban fiction author. So this book is romance, but it's also a hood book about 4 different lesbian couples, and they are embarking on different journeys. So one is a drug dealer. She's a stud and a drug dealer. You have another couple who is trying to have a baby, but they're married, but they're trying to have a baby, but their marriage is kind of going through a hard place right now. And the drug dealer, JJ, she's like completely book based. She basically can't commit to one person. So it's basically, I try to throw a little bit of, what actually happens in the LGBTQ community, as well as a lot of, fiction as well.
Okay, well, that we definitely are going to want to have in the bookstore, because that is definitely going to be very interesting to have, especially when it comes to hosting a book club. And hey, you could have that market on the LGBTQ section in the bookstore. So if you are looking, hey, tell all your family and friends that hopefully soon we'll be in a bookstore. Coming soon to you.
Yeah, definitely. If the stupid post office would ever get the book to you, then I'll send over your waiting.
Absolutely. So I said this in the earlier broadcast and in the pre-show. If you have sent me any books and I have not emailed you back, or I have emailed you and said I didn't get it yet, as you know, post office has been nuts. So of course, due to certain decisions made by the current occupant of the White House, we have lost quite a few, if millions, of sorting machines in individual post offices. So now the postal workers are having to individually sort mail, letters, packages, everything. So your books are probably here, but they just haven't sorted them yet, and it has not gone to my post office. So please bear with me. I know you guys are waiting patiently for decisions. I just haven't gotten them yet. I always tell everyone, please send me tracking numbers so I can track where I don't have to go to the post office every day, because I don't like people and it's COVID, and I just feel like it's COVID on me when I go to the post office. So I try to limit how often I have to go to the post office, but because I'm getting so many emails, hey, has my book came? I'm waiting. I'm finding myself going more and they're just not there. So I do apologize. And it's the same with if you have purchased books from Legacy. The books I am shipping out in 3 to 5 business days. That is an absolute standard of mine. But then again, the same way you're sending me books, me sending them to you, they're probably there at your destined post office. You just haven't gotten them yet because they haven't had a chance to sort them. So please just bear with me. If I can find some more information, I will send you emails. I will post something to social media. So I just want to put that little tidbit, and I will also tell that into the next panel discussion. So I don't want anybody to think I purchased these books and Legacy hasn't sent them yet. No, Legacy sent them. Post office just chilling. At this point, I feel like the post office is probably reading the books themselves and putting them back in the box. I haven't gotten them yet. So I don't know. And I feel like if that's the case, you need to just go send us that money back and keep the books, and I can resend them to someone else. So that's how it was going on. So I do apologize. As soon as I get them, I will definitely let you know. But
thank you for that. And I apologize for what you're going through too. That's so inconvenient.
It's nuts over here. I do apologize. So yes, keep looking. It's coming. Don't worry, we got you. Okay.
Thank you.
No problem. So let's see. I've had all 3 of you ladies on my sipping chat. So who do I go to next? Actually, I think I'm going to go to Donna, because Donna is my Cali author. So we're going to go to the West Coast with her a little bit. So Donna, let's tell us about Chocolate in the City and Chocolate in the City 2. And you're muted. There you go. No, muted again.
There
you go.
I'm too fast. I did it so fast and clicked back over.
Okay.
I'm not the most technical person.
It's okay.
You'll see.
It's
but
we'll figure it out together. It's all right.
That's what I use my kids for. Fix this.
Absolutely.
But Chocolate in the City, I tell people, is what happens if Sex in the City and Girls Trip had a baby. You'd have Chocolate in the City. And so it's basically Sex in the City with flavor. You have 3 women who have been friends since middle school, junior high school, and now they're in their late 30s, and they just go through life together. They go through everything together, having kids, man trouble, problems at work, and just life in general. So it's just a tight knit group, and it's how they support each other and how they each other. Chocolate in the City is the first part is basically introduces you to the women, and we go through an event with one of the ladies, and then Chocolate in the City 2 continues where Chocolate City left off, and there were a couple of the ladies were kind of their romance. The romantic life was kind of in flux, so we find out what happens to them there. And then there's also medical emergencies for the women in the second book. So it's basically about life. People enjoy it. A lot of times people send me a comment and say that it felt like them and their girls, So I'm glad, because I always want people to be able to relate to my writing, to see this.
Okay, so as you heard, Chocolate in the City 1 and 2 can be purchased at legacybookbar.com. So if you want to see some Sex in the City with a hint of cinnamon flavor, you know where to go to purchase those books. I'm going to go on up to the East Coast. I'm going to hit Nikki Charis in Connecticut. Nikki, let's talk about your 2 books.
Yes, so I am more of a romance slash thriller slash hood type author, right? So most of my books will always have some form of suspense, some form of whodunit in it with a crazy twist. So the first book I released was A Twisted Love. It's one of my absolute favorites. It centers around Red, who's a college senior, wants to be a CNN correspondent, has her whole life ahead of her, planned out what she's going to do. And then she meets Q. And Q's one of those guys who has everything going for him, but you know he got a lot of baggage. He come with something extra, right? That something extra that no matter how much you tell yourself, I'm not gonna mess with it, you mess with it. So it's definitely one that has a lot of twists and turns, an unexpected ending. And I think it's one that readers really tend to enjoy because they never figure out exactly what the ending is going to be. What I do love about it is that I ended the book with a cliffhanger, and due to popular demand, I am now working on a part 2 that should be released within the next 2 months. So it was meant to be a standalone, but now a part 2, A Twisted Love 2 is coming. It will answer some questions from part 1, but we'll introduce some new characters. The lead character, her name is Carly, and everyone's gonna love Carly. It takes place in Dominican Republic, so we about to have some Caribbean flavor going on. You know what happened when you go out of town, right? So that's definitely going to be a lot of fun. I'm excited to release it. So be looking for that. And my second novel is Promises to Keep with the lead character, Derek. Derek is an attorney. He has everything going from him as far as money, education, the looks, but he's a womanizer. He can't have one. He has to have all of them. You know how I go. You know, I'm a man. I got everything. I can't just keep it down with one. But he does come across this one who intrigues him and challenges him, Destiny. And Destiny has secrets, the kind of secrets that could possibly end your life. So you definitely want to check out Promises to Keep to see if Derek is able to contain himself, or if he's able to, you know, figure out that I can be a guy who can embrace monogamy. And then also whether or not Destiny is who we think she is, or if there's more to her than what meets the eye. So I definitely love Promises to Keep. I know it's a fan favorite as well. So hopefully you guys go out to Legacy BookBar and check those 2 out.
Absolutely. And Nikki is another one where she is famous for sharing, retweeting, posting anything that Legacy puts out, because she is also a firm believer in I share, you share. Whatever I see it, I'm going to post it. And in the for those that were tuned in to the earlier panel, I had 2 authors that were on in the earlier panel from Divine Legacy Publishing. So I told earlier that Divine Legacy Publishing is a self-publishing company, but I have authors from that publishing company that have their books in the store, and then Divine Legacy as a publishing company kind of gets, you know, gold stars because 7 of their authors have their books in the store. Nikki Cheris is one of those authors from Divine Legacy Publishing. So authors like Brie Lynette, who was in the first panel, hopefully we're going to get Tiara Nicole into the store, Nikki Cheris. Those authors come from Divine Legacy. So when you're thinking, hey, I want to support Black owned, you get a trifecta with some of the authors here because the Legacy BookBar is Black owned. The authors are Black and they're self-published. They come from a Black-owned self-publishing company. So for one purchase, or, you know, you're getting every book, you're literally hitting all 3 trifecta when you want to support an author from Legacy BookBar. So make sure you tell your friends and family, like, they got everything. Yes, and I'll even go a step further. If you go to the website, legacybookbar.com, and you go to our merchandise, those T-shirts that we have, a graphic designer did those designs. That's Black owned. The T-shirts are done by a Black owned T-shirt company. The pillows that we have are someone that did the woman that did them, that's Black owned. So when I say we embrace us, we embrace our culture, we embrace one another, this is a tried and true fact here at Legacy BookBar. So Make sure, if you're watching, if you're family and friends of the authors, make sure you share this broadcast. Make sure you hit the follows of the authors on the panel as well as Legacy Book Bar, because that's how we're going to get big. And not necessarily like me as a whole. Yes, I want to get big, but an entity, the book industry, this is how we are going to be huge when the numbers support the talent that we have, especially on this panel. So make sure you do that. I'm going to swing it back down to the DMV, and I'm going to get my girl Maureen, and I'm going to go to her. Let's talk about, you have 3 books in the store. So you have 4 books. Yes.
It just dropped this
Yes,
weekend.
you do. Oh my God. So Maureen has 4 books.
Yeah.
Right? She has 3 for sure, and 1 that's coming. You have the pick. Which one do you want to talk about?
Well, you know
Okay.
what? Let's talk about the one I just released. It's,
A little bit.
I don't know
What
if you
you
can
got?
see it. Can you see it? So it's a collection of poetry. And because I had so many emotions, because I was tapping into other people's emotions, whether it was my children, whether it was other friends, family, associates, people at work, I start writing. It was just so many emotions boiling over and end up becoming a book. And the name of the book is Because She Had Something to Say. And after this is said and done, everyone is going to have something to say about 2020. So everyone is going to be able 10 years from now and look back and say, well, I did this. I did this. This is what happened to me. This is what I experienced. And so Nina Simone said that an artist captures the moment in time. And that just stuck in my head all year. And the next thing I knew, I had a book, Menina. I thought I was going to be working on the sequel to my novel, and the characters just wasn't really talking to me. But the feelings, the mood, the whole vibe of 2020 was alive and prevalent. So I wrote a book.
I love it. For those that watch our Sip and Chat podcast, I received a lot of text messages and DMs because she actually ended her podcast with a poem. And when I tell you it was not a dry eye, I was like, "Ooh, child, she didn't get it right here. Let me get myself together." So I can't, and again, you all know I read your books like I'm a fan before I have to put on that bookstore owner hat. So I know I'm gonna have my wine and my tissues, because I know you're gonna hit that one out of the park. I cannot wait to get that one. But you do, I don't know if I want to talk about Married It's Complicated or your other book. You got a lot of books, sis. You got them all. It's great. But you did mention you might start a sequel. Let's talk about Married Is Complicated.
Okay, well, Married Is Complicated is my first swing at novel writing. It's very different from poetry writing. So it's my first swing at it, and I finally, released it after holding on to it for quite some years. I think I'm getting a little feedback. Let me push this back. Okay, so I finally released it after holding on to it for some years. And I really honestly did not want to release it because I didn't think it was finished. But I got to that point where I said, you know what, I'm just going to release it. And it's a short novel about a married couple and the complications. It gives a peer view of the complications that they are experiencing in their marriage. I did leave off with a huge cliffhanger so that I can really dive into those complications in the next novel. And I want to make sure that I do a service to the men who read my book, because I've gotten some great feedback from the men who have said that I've actually captured the husband's voice. I'll, give you a little secret. The husband's voice isn't large in the book, but the chapters where he does speak, enough said. So I definitely want to go back and dive into the complications a little bit more and give the reader some more tidbits and juiciness, I'll say. So I'll be working on that soon.
Wonderful. Cannot wait. So I know I posed this question with the other panel, and I know people have different ideas, but I'm just curious what this panel thinks. So all of you have gone are self-published, and I know I think kind of the three of you, we've talked about it a little bit on the sipping chats, but and I know this is going to be a big topic on the next panel because that's all publishers in the next panel. What was your reasoning? Give us a quick tidbit. What was a quick reason you guys decided to go self-published versus traditional publishing? Donna, you can go first, and you're muted.
Okay, well, I spent several years sending my stuff out since I'm from New York. Being in New York, all the publishing houses in New York, I, immediately thought, oh, this would be so great if, HarperCollins calls me and I have to go into Manhattan and have a meeting with them about my book. That was like my dream. So I sent out to every publishing house in New York I could think of. I got rejections. I probably could have made some wallpaper. I got so many rejections. Then someone I was speaking to was telling me, you should just keep going because they don't want it, that doesn't mean there's no merit to what you're writing. And I noticed that in writing, giving people I knew little pieces to read, they come back to me like, where's the rest of it? Where's the rest of it? And I'm like, well, I haven't written it yet. And I'd have people call me and tell me it made them cry, or they were rolling, or they want to beat somebody's butt. So I said, I think I got something here. People are actually feeling what I'm writing. And that's the whole object of writing, is to make people feel that. So I knew I should keep doing it. So I did get a couple of big publishing companies interested, but one, I have a historical called Borrowed Time, and it's about a love triangle on the slave plantation. And okay, we're talking about a slave plantation. They literally sent me a legal size sheet, single spaced, with everything they wanted me to change or take out of the book. So as I got halfway through this sheet, I'm like, well, this is not even my book anymore. Like, I don't even recognize this book. So I just passed. I was like, because number one, you're insane. How am I going to have a book that takes place on the same plantation and there's no violence, especially violence against women, especially women being attacked? Like, that's not even normal. Everybody knows that. So I just passed on it, and I just kept writing it, and I just kept writing all my books, and I didn't know what to do with them. So I put them in shopping bags and threw them in the closet. And then in 2004, the self-publishing became more available, and I did a lot of research. And so my first book, High Rise, wound up coming out in 2005. And I've just figured out how to self-publish it. And it was just very exciting because it was 600 pages. I would go to bookstores. They wouldn't let me do book signings. They told me the book is 600 pages. It costs $26.50. You're a nobody. Nobody's going to pay this for this book, which crushed my spirit. But, you have to go sit in the car, cry, and then you go home and you regroup. So I did. And my cousin told me, this is where all the Black stars go in Harlem. It was a bookstore called Human. It's no longer there. I don't know if they still have an online presence or not. And I got in there, and it was great. Getting there, actually, my book wound up on Essence bestseller list. So that was just a blessing, and that helped me keep going. And so after that, I was like, I don't need these publishing houses. I have full control over what I write. and the people that read my books like what I write, so there's no need to change it. And then when I found out how the publishing business works, I realized I was still better off. Zane had uh, spoke at something I was reading, and she was saying that she sold like 20,000 books on her own. And then she got the 3-book deal with the big publishing company. And she said she basically sold about the same amount of books once she signed to the company. So basically, she didn't need them. They actually needed her. So between that and this talking to other authors, I realized, yeah, you know what? I'm going to stay self-publishing because, you have the freedom, and also, you don't have anybody telling you you can't do this or this won't sell or nobody's interested in that or what have you. So to me, it was the best way to go, and I encourage people wholeheartedly, if they want to write it and publish it. Right now, it's super easy to publish, and I just try to encourage people to do that. So that's my long-winded way of saying
amazing.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Finish.
Oh, that's okay. I forgot. Mom,
okay. Nisha, it's okay. Nisha, same question. Your reasonings for self-publishing.
So back in 2000, am I still muted? Oh. Okay, so back in 2016, I didn't know anything about the publishing. Well, I started writing my very first book, Miss Carmel, before 2016, but I published it in 2016. I didn't know anything about publishing. I didn't know, in my mind, you write your book, you submit it to Simon & Schuster, which is like the best publishing company, and then you know what I mean, become like a New York best-selling author. That was in my head, and I thought that that's what it was about. And it wasn't until I finished the book and I did all my research and I found, no, you have to have an agent. Agent has to submit it to those big publishing companies. So I did submit my work to some agents, and they don't tell you, of course, what they're looking for, what they're not looking for. So I think I'm having some. Can you guys hear me? I don't know why I can't. Okay. I'm sorry, I was having a little bit of some issues. So I
think I can hear you, Nisha, when you speak.
Oh, can you hear me?
Oh, nope, I can't hear you. Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, I'm so sorry. That was the weirdest thing that happened. It's just everything just went black. I don't even know what happened. What part did you guys hear me say last?
The last part I heard you say was that you were told that you needed to get an agent in order to submit your books to some of the larger publishing companies.
Oh, yes. So basically, of course, I did submit I submitted to a bunch of agents. I didn't know like what they were looking for, what they weren't looking for. Then of course you get your rejection letter. They don't tell you why. They just tell you you're rejected, right? So you don't know what to change, what not to change. And I did kind of get frustrated
I muted myself. Did it sound like she
Weird.
was talking really fast or it was static? Was okay.
Yeah.
I can't figure
But
out. And
it was good at first, and then as she kept talking, it was like it started to get staticky.
And that's so
yeah,
weird.
I don't know what happened. Audience. So now we hear you fine, but for some reason, after like 30 seconds, you're gone.
That's weird. I can hear myself, but I'm hearing static too now.
Oh, see, she sounds great now.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So let's keep going with this and see what happens.
Okay. So I figured Simon & Schuster, that may have been an unrealistic goal, seeing as to how I was a nobody. I wasn't published. And I was like, I started looking more into self-publishing. And I was like, if I wait for this to happen, this may go on forever versus I can self-publish, still get a fan base, and still, achieve my goals, was just people reading my work and, maybe get into the mainstream that way. So that's kind of what I did. I kind of came into it with just a whole unrealistic expectation, but that's just, reading all the authors that I like my favorite authors are Zane and Ashley and Jaquivas and, stuff like that. I was like, oh, I'm going to be like them. That's exactly what's going to happen. All I have to do is just publish my book. And that's just not how it works. So, but that's basically how I got into self-publishing, and I'm happy that I did.
Yeah, that seems to be the growing theme when I'm talking to, my legacy authors, or I'm talking to authors at different events. And I'm just kind of like, as I'm in this book industry, I'm learning, I'm growing, I'm trying to get different tidbits, because I will have authors that ask me like, hey, I'm in the writing process. Do you think I should go traditionally? And that's not an answer that I can particularly answer. I think it's the best fit for the author, but you have to know the benefits, the flaws from each side to make that informed decision for yourself. Nikki, I know in our episode we had you kind of touched on that too. Let's get your feedback on it.
Yeah, you definitely have to make the best decision for you as an author, which one works best for you, because self-publishing comes with a lot of additional responsibilities that you don't necessarily have when you publish with a traditional publishing company. Me, I am a control freak. I want to be able to talk about what I want to talk about. I want to market it the way I want to market it. And I don't like paying people. So I don't want to give you my royalties. Whatever I make off my book, I want to keep for myself, just because, that's just how I am. So I knew that for me, self-publishing was going to work for me. But I also understood the time commitment that was going to come along with that. I also understood a lot of the upfront financial costs that was going to come along with that. And I also understood that it was going to be up to me to figure out how to market my book, how to promote my book, how to get it out there and things like that. So I understood a lot of the things that came along with self-publishing, but that was the best decision for me. If you are someone who, for example, does not have the time commitment, may not be able to, cover a lot of the upfront costs for editing and book covers and all that kind of stuff, then maybe working through a traditional company is for you. And I have also learned that you don't have to go to some of the big name publishing companies from a traditional standpoint in order to get good value or to get good service. There are a lot of smaller Black-owned traditional publishing companies that will certainly work with you, that certainly provide quality service, and that definitely will help get your book out. So it really is what works for you, but it worked best for me self-publishing, again, because I wanted to have control of my own destiny. If I, became successful, I wanted that to be because of me. If it failed, I wanted that to also be because of me and not put that on somebody else. And then it also helps that one of my best friends is Amanda Chambers, who is the owner of Divine Legacy Publishing. And so I had watched her go through the progressions of what it meant to be a self-published author, to get the credentials, to learn what industry standards were. And I trusted her with that. So when it came to wanting to be a self-published author myself, I knew that I had somebody who could tell me right from wrong and help guide me through the steps of getting the copyright and making sure your paperwork and stuff is in order and all of that, which is, again, something that everybody else doesn't have. Sometimes people go through trial and error on self-publishing and they find out, the next time I need to do this or the next time I need to do that. And I'm fairly new to the industry. Although I've been writing for almost 20 years, I'm still fairly new to being a published author. I published my first book in 2017. So I'm still kind of figuring out the ropes for myself. But I do know that for me, publishing through self-publishing was the best. But it didn't even cross my mind to do anything else.
I agree 1000%. Maureen, same question. Your reasonings for self-publishing?
Well, I'm gonna have to piggyback a lot on the other ladies. One thing I do want to say is, writing is an art. It's no different than music, painting, just being a creative. And self-publishing gives you that opportunity to have that control over your art.
I agree 1000%. And it's something I, as a business owner, is learning all of this information. You're never too old to learn, and it's good to know and get feedback. So when you're getting asked these questions, you can kind of give them, a truthful answer and say, well, I know I talked to my authors and they said A, B, and C. This was their reasonings. And, you kind of got to figure out for yourself based on finances, based on creative control, based on, are you okay with marketing yourself? Because that's big, and understanding how big social media plays into marketing your book or books. How does social media play a huge part? You have to kind of understand and learn that. Some people I don't feel like doing all that, and you just leave it up to the publisher. So that sounds more like a traditional publisher. But it's whatever works for you. So I can't wait. The next panel is ready. Those are our publishers. We're really gonna get some good questions and some answers for them. Thank you so much, Donna, Nisha, Maureen, Nikki. Thank you so much for being part of the book summit. I will be reaching out to you individually. I did tell the previous panels to look out for. We are going to host a holiday extravaganza, I think I'm going to call it, where it's just going to be a private Zoom for just legacy authors, because I kind of want you guys to see who you're with. Like, we're a family. You should be able to meet your other family members and kind of have some fun with it a little bit. So I'm going to be sending out some information about that later on. Again, you guys have been great. Audience, I hope you are taking some really good advice and some good notes from these ladies. If you want to purchase any of the books that we're talking about today on this panel specifically, or on the previous panels, you can go to legacybookbar.com. We have Donna Michelle. She has Chocolate in the City 1 and 2. Nikki, we have A Twisted Love and Promises to Keep. Maureen Mays, we have Married It's Complicated. And her newest book is coming soon. So again, you can get all of those at legacybookbar.com. Ladies, thank you so much. And I will see you next time.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Thanks, ladies. Thank you so much. Thank you. And audience, please stay with me. I am now going to bring to the panel some of our self-publishing company, the owners of these publishing companies, We are now going to bring to the stream, we have Amanda Chambers with Divine Legacy Publishing. We talked quite a bit about them because some of her authors that were on the panel are from her publishing company. I'm going to bring in Indy Jones. She has Kumba Publishing. And I'm going to bring in Author K. These ladies, in some form or fashion, have worked on either self-publishing or traditional publishing, if not both. The also good thing about them is that these ladies also write. So with Amanda Chambers and Indy Jones, their books are actually sold in Legacy Book Bar. So welcome, ladies. And you're all muted. I'm sorry. Unmute yourself.
Thank you. Thank you for having us. Yes, thank you.
Absolutely. So I had to end book summit with my favorites here, because you ladies, especially Amanda and Indy, I talk to y'all the most. So I had to end it because I know you guys are going to give us some great answers. I got some good questions because I feel like I want to say I'm coming across this first before I get into the deep questions. Let me welcome Kay, because Kay, you are newest to the family. Thank you so much for joining. I know Amanda hit you up and was like, my girl got some questions on the traditional side and we need your input. So thank you for being able to jump on the book summit call. For those that are tuning in, we have Amanda Chambers with My Legacy, I have Andy Jones with Kumba Publishing, and I have Dr. Kay. She is my person I go to the traditional publishing side. So this is why we have her on the call today. Remember, you can please share this feed on all 3 social media platforms. If you're just tuning in, you don't know me. My name is Menina, and I own Legacy BookBar. Legacy BookBar caters to, but it's not exclusive to, self-published authors. All of our authors are Black. 85% of the characters are Black. Some of the authors that self-published come from a Black-owned self-publishing company. So we have the trifecta here when it comes to Legacy BookBar. So today I wanted to bring in these 3 ladies because I think these ladies can give us the best info, the best answers to the burning questions that I get asked as a bookstore owner. And then, of course, it's World Author Day. So congratulations, it's World Author Day. So welcome, ladies. So, how's it been? You know, it's been a little nuts all these last couple of months in this COVID world. Election day is around the corner. Just had Halloween, so it's been a little crazy. Y'all all right? We still good?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, good to hear. So, God, I'm trying to figure out which question I want to ask first. I got a lot for you ladies. So, let's see. Rhyme or reason. Self-publishing versus traditional publishing. The hows and the whys. Okay, because you were newest to the Legacy family, I will start with you first. Are you muted? Can you hear me? Are you there?
Okay, so
There you
I
go.
feel like I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
I feel like honestly with both, there's benefits. For me, when I started, it was with a traditional publisher. Well, actually, no, let me backtrack. I started self-publishing, and I was like number 2,055,100,000 on the charts. Nobody knew who I was. I was completely naive to pretty much everything. Didn't know anything about graphics, editing. I was just like, you know what? I'm going to write a story and put it out there. And I signed with a traditional publisher. And for me, I feel like once I did that, it was kind of like a stepping stone. I feel like a lot of people that use traditional publishers, you're basically, and I'm just being honest when I say this, you're using your publisher's name. You're paying them royalties to use their name. Most traditional publishers have, you know, popularity and they're well known. The publisher that I was with was very popular in the industry, very well known. And for the time that I was with them, you know, it was beneficial to me because I gained their readers and they ended up, you know, knowing who author K was, or at the time, First Lady K. They knew who I was. So when it came time for me to branch off, I was more confident knowing that, you know, okay, now I can do things on my own and I don't have to worry about, you know, splitting royalties with a company that may not even really read my books like that, or may not really know my work, but are just slapping their name on a cover and saying, okay, well, hey, you guys go read it.
Gotcha. Okay. So I just entered into the panel, Nikki Kurtz. She is owner and publisher of Mocha Memoirs Press. As I stated earlier, we have Amanda Chambers with Divine Legacy Publishing, and then we have Indy Jones with Kumba Publishing. So I always talk to Amanda. I'm gonna make her go last because I talk to her all the time.
I can't hear anything.
You can't. Oh, can anyone hear me? Am I muted? No, I'm not muted. Can anyone hear me? Indy, can you hear me? Nicole, can you hear me? Figure what's going on here.
Yeah,
I do apologize. I am in Baltimore. We got a whole thunderstorm going on outside, so just bear with us. It's a little crazy here. So I am
okay, now I hear you guys. I don't know what just happened, but I couldn't hear anything.
Okay, good. So what I am doing is just muting everyone only so I can it won't be so much feedback when everyone's talking, and I want each guest to be able to talk clearly with not a lot of background noise, and the audience can hear as you're speaking. So okay, great. Comments are saying yes, I can hear. So everyone, we are good to go. Great. Indy, you also were on the Sip and Chat a few weeks ago, and I know we talked a little bit about this as well. The how, the why, the reasonings behind self-publishing versus traditional publishing. And you can unmute and you can go next.
Oh, thank you. Happy November 1st, everyone.
Yes.
And my husband just walked in. His birthday's today.
Happy
So
birthday.
I'm just going to say happy birthday. He's right there. I'm not even going to look at him. He just came in from working out. So I'm going to say happy birthday to my Scorpio husband. So we have some plans after this, but you're right. I when I logged in and I was backstage, you had another author, and I heard some of what she had to say about her reasoning behind self-publishing versus traditional publishing. And I actually agree with a lot of what she had to say. And I think the main point that I'll repeat that she shared is that it's really based on you knowing yourself, your knowledge, your skills, your competencies, your needs, because when you deal with self-publishing, it's you and whoever you network with, outsourced to, but you are in control of every aspect from the writing to finding the right editor, to the marketing, to the cover designer, every little piece of that. And so what she noted was that if you're the type of person who likes to really get in there, who's hands-on, who like to really have 100% control over everything that you do, then self-publishing could be a very good option for you. If that doesn't necessarily fit your personality, or perhaps you don't simply have the time, or you may not have the financial resources to pay for all those different component pieces just to get it from the computer out there to the masses, then going a more traditional route would perhaps suit your particular situation. But one thing I did note when we did talk, Menina, with the Sip and Chat, was that it doesn't need to be an either or situation. I think that's important. You don't have to lock yourself into one camp and just stay there. And I would actually recommend for people to really entertain the idea of being, that type of dual publishing, a hybrid author. That's the term I could not think of. To be a hybrid author, to be a hybrid publisher. So you could self-publish some of your work and then also go through a traditional publishing as well. But I think the bottom line is for individuals to make decisions based on who they are and their needs, and not necessarily someone else, because someone else, they have a different story. And so they're going to make a decision based on what works best for them. So I do think it's about the individual and what you bring to the situation. And then you may change over time as you acquire more skills and more competence in what it is that you're doing.
That's an insightful answer. That's a little different. I like that. Okay, being a dual threat on both sides of the ball. I like that. Okay. Nicole, we're gonna come to you, and I want to say I think at Mocha Memoirs Press, do they work more on the traditional side, or is that still self-publishing? No, you guys are traditionally publishing, but Black owned. Okay, good. So here's her intake. Intake. That's a good word I want to use. Her perspective. Nope, I like that word better on traditional publishing. I think I lost Kay for a second, so we'll add her back on in a minute if she can log back. Nicole, let's get your input on it. And you're muted, so you can unmute yourself. Wait, can we unmute?
Okay, I apologize for that.
It's
yeah,
okay.
No, I'm good. But okay, so Mocha Memoirs does two things. We're traditionally a small press, so we pay for the editing, the proofreading, the cover art, right? Marketing. We do that's all the money flows to the author. I do have some self-published works there. My works that were published by a different publisher and I got the rights back are republished, so they don't go out of print at Mocha. But we are definitely a traditional house in the sense that, like I said, we do all the work and all the investment in the product, and so money flows to the author. I definitely think that when I started this journey back in 2010, I was looking to help amplify marginalized voices in spec. So it's not just Black only. We do LGBTQ. We do areas where women aren't traditionally published, like horror. We have a just any type of marginalized or underrepresented groups we publish, or we look at their works to publish, because there wasn't, a decade ago, there wasn't a whole lot of places that were interested in women writing horror. There weren't a lot of places that were interested in Black people writing horror or fantasy or military sci-fi or whatever the case may be. And so I just wanted a home for those other stories that couldn't get past the larger house's gatekeepers, right? And so I definitely agree with Indy Jones in that if you're looking to publish your work, you kind of need to have a real self-talk about what it is you want, how you define success, because that's really important. Because if you choose, what does success mean to you? Not everyone's success radar is, I want to be a New York Times bestseller, right? Some people's success is a little bit, smaller in scope. And that kind of will determine where you want to go, right? And how you want to get there. But I do agree, I'm a hybrid author, right? So I have works at my press that are self-published, but I also have works that are published by other people's publishing companies. And so Nicole, the writer, is a hybrid author, right? I have self-published works. I have works that are traditionally published. I do both. And I definitely think that gives you, an opportunity for greater readership, right? Because if you're publishing just yourself, that scope for who you reach can be very small, right? Based on your resources, based on your networking, based on your connections. But if you are a hybrid author, or you have works that are traditionally published by other presses, that puts your work in front of different readers. And so you can kind of grow your readership or grow your audience too, by placing your work outside your area or sphere of influence, right? And so that's kind of the benefit of being a hybrid author. For the works that you want to retain control over, the works that you want to have the freedom to design the cover, and you want to have freedom to make it, 500,000 words if you want to. Like, you want that freedom for one work, you self-publish it, right? If you want to kind of grow your readership or try to get it in front of a different audience or a larger audience than what you already have, or if it seems more commercial, send it out there and see if you can get another publisher to pick it up. And so I definitely think that based on the product or the project rather, you can decide which avenue you want to take. But I definitely think that that's very much a conversation you need to be honest with yourself about. Because at the beginning of my 20 years ago, I was not honest with myself. I thought I knew what I wanted. I didn't do the research. Like you were supposed, like I strongly recommend you do, in the genre you want to write in. I didn't do any of that stuff. I just kind of threw it out there and was like, hey, let's see what sticks to the wall. Don't do that. Like, it was horrible. Don't do that. So Nicole, the writer, is a hybrid author, but Nicole, the publisher, is a very different thing. And I think, because I wrote erotic contemporary romance for like 8 years under a different pen name. It was really successful. And so I had, but they were all small presses. And so I had a lot of experience with contracts, with the way they did business. I had a whole bunch of editors that I now had access to right after I decided to. So when I started my publishing company, I had those things already in place. I already had a cachet of cover artists that I had worked with, right? And they don't care if it's a romance cover. They want the work. They'll make a sci-fi cover. They'll make a horror cover, right? They didn't care. So I already had that network built in over a period of like 8 years. So when I started my publishing house, I had that network that N.D. Jones was talking about, right? Those people I could reach out to and kind of say, hey, I'm starting this press. Would you be interested in editing for me? What are your rates? Blah, 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 blah. And so it's very similar to self-publishing. It would be great if you had editors that you trusted, cover artists that you trusted and valued their work to help you with your independent projects.
I muted myself and completely forgot.
I don't know. I think I answered.
I did that. I've done that like 6 times today. So
that's
sorry.
Okay, but I definitely think that as a writer, you have so many more options, right, than I did back in 1998 with this journey. So do your research, be patient. Because I was like, I just want to have a work published. I was so eager to have a work published. I just was very careless in how I went about that. But the more structured, the more knowledgeable you are, the more informed you are about the genre in which you're trying to enter. I think the better your product will be, and the better the reception for your work will be.
Gotcha. Okay. Let me throw this same question back to Amanda Chambers with Divine Legacy. Now, you also are like ND. You guys are your author and the publisher for your company. So, you have a little bit of insight for both sides of the ball.
Well, for me, I never intended to be a publisher. I had no intention. I was going to write. That's what I was going to do. I wasn't going to be involved in the publishing industry at all. Throughout my life, I had been a couple of times. When I was in college, I did an internship at Arabesque when they owned Kimani Romance as an editor. And then for a short time, I worked with this lady named Kirsten, who is Author K, when she had her boutique publishing company. And so I had my hand in the pot, but knew that I didn't want to be in the pot. I just wanted to publish. And I chose self-publishing because as one of my DLP authors in the previous segment said, Nikki, I need to be able to control my stuff. Like, you can't tell me where I'm going to do it, when I'm going to do it, how I'm going to do it. I'm just too old and set in my ways, I guess. We'll go with that. But I'm not going to let you control. I'd seen publishing companies that over the years that had, controlled the title, the time it comes out, what the book cover looks like. We're not doing that with me, because that's just going to be a bad relationship. And I know myself well enough to know that when you start telling me what to do, I'm going to start bucking against you. My mama, that was a very interesting childhood. So I knew that about myself. So I knew that self-publishing was going to be my route. I was blessed in that I had a writing background. I'm a former college professor. So not only did I, have to write my thesis, which was a whole book in of itself, but I had to teach people to write. It's a little different teaching them to write novels as opposed to narrative essays, but I knew enough that I could coach myself through it as well. And so I chose self-publishing, but I'm also this huge book nerd, right? So anything that I ever want to learn, I get books, I research. One day my husband came home and I was sitting in the middle of the floor and I had about 20 books around me. My daughter was maybe 2 at the time and she was playing with blocks and she was surrounded in blocks. And so it was an interesting conversation because I'd been to Barnes & Noble and bought all 20 of those books that day with real money. So
you got cussed out.
Yeah, that was almost a divorce, but it was because I wanted to learn and I wanted to understand, again, with no intention of starting a publishing company, but to educate myself so that I could do the best that I could with my book. Well, that turned into me putting my book out on my 35th birthday. So I'm telling my age now. And that was 4 years ago. So again, add it up. And, my book did well. It did very well. And that turned into people saying, who's Divine Legacy Publishing? Because one of the things I had learned is even if you're self-publishing, you create the press that publishes you. And it's just you, but it exists. And so everybody's contacting me, who's Divine Legacy Publishing? They did a great job with you, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, it's me. And then everybody's like, well, will you publish me? And at the time, I was slightly short-sighted. I would still make the same decision, but I was slightly short-sighted in how I saw things. And so I said no, because I felt like it was kind of hypocritical for me to do all this to self-publish myself, because I don't want anybody to control me. And then for me to turn around and do traditional publishing in which I would control things for other people. And so I said no, but if you guys ever want to self-publish, let me know. I probably read literally every book about it. So you know, I have no problem. And it just parlayed into me wanting to help people. I did more research about self-publishing, specifically that a pretty good chunk of the top 100 books on Amazon are from self-published authors. But of that pretty decent chunk, like 2% are Black people. And that kind of blew my mind, because it's like, wait a minute, just about everybody I know has some kind of story they want to tell. And maybe I'm just surrounded by writers and authors, but I got a pretty eclectic group of people that I roll with. So I don't think that's the case. And then it begged the question, why are we so underrepresented? And then that then turned into, well, then I'm going to be a resource. I have all this knowledge, I can help. At that point, I had started building my resources, because when I was doing my first book, I didn't know any graphic designers. My husband is a graphic designer, but at the time he wasn't. So, you know, this is years back. I didn't know any graphic designers. I did know editors coming from an English background. And I pulled my sister Anitra in to edit my book, because she will be brutally honest with me. She's that type of Scorpio. So, you know, and you laugh because you know. And so I knew she would be brutally honest and she would tell me the truth. And her and I have the same degrees. So I knew, you know, with editing, she had the professional side of that. I wasn't worried about that. But she was really the only resource that I knew and had at this time. So we're talking about book cover, website. I made my husband make my first website. God bless him. He probably wanted to kill me, because I had no idea what I wanted. And he wasn't into making author websites. So we had to pray over that. And it was interesting. So I wanted to build this community and be a resource. And so that's where the self-publishing company came in. So my company teaches people to self-publish, but it's not like, all right, I taught you, now go be with God. It's a community. And it's, you know, we do events together. Actually, next weekend is our annual book soiree, which we were worried wasn't going to happen this year because of COVID, but some innovation made it happen. So it will be live on the Divine Legacy Publishing social media next week. And enrichment, I have so many resources now that I didn't even think I would ever have. And my goal is just to empower people to take control of their work. And I know control, big thing with me, I'm like Janet Jackson, right? Control. But yeah, it is important to me, because I've seen so many authors, Black authors specifically, lose control because they get caught up in this system that's not built for them. Mm-hmm. And I really wholeheartedly believe that larger publishing companies, they're not built for Black authors, because they're not built for our unique needs and our unique challenges. And so my goal has been to teach people to self-publish, so you don't have to worry about working in a system that is not built for you.
Right.
And so again, just being a resource and trying to learn and trying to enrich and trying to create a community. Because, you know, I've did it to myself, but when I was in grad school, I had to research Black communities and the functions of Black people and all of that. And one thing that I learned is that we are community and tribe minded. We do well in groups, working in groups and stuff like that. So it was my intention to create a community of self-published authors so that they can empower each other, they can share each other's work. I don't believe in that you're my competition stuff. If I write erotic romance and you write erotic romance, readers gonna read. So if we cross promote, you're reaching my people, I'm reaching your people, we're selling books because readers are always going to read. That's what they do. That's what I do. And I started out as a reader. So that was the goal of me creating self-publishing opportunities. Would I traditionally publish in an anthology? Yes, I would. I would contribute like a short story or something to an anthology, a group project. Would I traditionally publish solo? It's not for me. Not saying it's not a good thing, not saying that it's not for other people. Personally, as an author, that's going to be a hard pass for me. In an anthology, a group thing, yes, I would. So, but that you just have to figure out where you fit, and where I fit is I can play nice in a group. We can, you know, what's the thing, guys? Let's do it. But solo, where I have to hand over control of my solo project, can't do it. So that's me.
Okay. Comments are coming in. Arania says, come join us next week. Arania is also a Legacy BookBar author, and she's self-published through Divine Legacy Publishing. Her book, Mama, is sold at legacybookbar.com. It is a teen novel. So if you have some teens that are interested in reading, or they you want to get them into reading, that is a good book to get at legacybookbar.com. And again, that's part of that trifecta I was telling you about. Black owned bookstore, Black author, Black owned self-publishing company. So you get that trifecta with Arania's story. Maureen said Amanda is preaching. Maureen Mays was on panel previous to you guys. So she is still on the video feed. And Arania said, thanks for the shout out. Of course, darling. Why would I not? That's not even me, of course. So keep staying tuned. Make sure you share the broadcast on to your family and friends. So here was my big question that I can pose to the panel. So last week, I got hit with some questions that had me slightly stumped as a bookstore owner. And I'm not going to say what the questions were, who they were from, because that's not important. But it made me sit back and think and realize that, unfortunately, a lot of authors do not understand the industry that they are in. They don't understand their role. They don't understand the role of the self-publishing company that they're with. And they do not understand the role as the bookstore owner. And when I had this little epiphany, I realized that how can this be that you've spent this much time, this much money, and you don't understand the business? Like, you didn't research, you didn't ask questions. Because after I was reading the questions, I realized that had you done previous research, this question you wouldn't have to ask because you would know the answer. So as publishers on both sides of the field, have you come across that yourself, or is it just me? ND, I will start with you.
I was thinking as you were speaking, the word that came to my mind is like, yeah, that's fair. I mean, we all been through school. We do tons of research. But I think it's fair in that if we're talking about, so Amanda mentioned, the dearth of African American publishers in traditional publishing, but it's not just on the author side, it's who work for those companies. And so when you talk about communities that have, like African American communities with long history of historical oppression, current oppression, our networks are not rich. And I'm speaking in the broadest sense. I'm not talking about individuals. But if your family, friends, and neighborhoods, you are limited to what you are often exposed to. Yes, the internet is huge now, but when you grow up and you just see certain things. So both my husband and I, we have advanced degrees. I can tell you, both my kids, they're in college, and I can't tell you how many times that they can just go downstairs in the basement and find books that they need before they even pull out their laptop and do research, because that's the household that they grew up in. And I'm saying there are certain advantages depending on how you grew up and who you are exposed to, that you don't have to go out and read anything. It's kind of like almost like natural. You're socialized with it. And then if you want to explore this, your mom or your dad or your aunt or uncle may say, oh, I know someone here. I know someone there. I think oftentimes we don't really have that. And so when we have this great passion, we have this great idea, we move with that energy. And sometimes we don't realize what we don't know until we're already fully immersed in it. And I think that that is fair. And I know that I would lie, or I would be lying to you if I said that I've never done that. Of course, I think we all have to varying degrees. So I think that what we need to do to kind of like solve or minimize that issue is to really create opportunities at various ages, but as young as possible, to really get that information out there, to really open ourselves up to really good networking, to professional development, to getting into schools, getting into communities, because you want to go where people are. You want to make it accessible. And so people won't necessarily find themselves in situations in which they're struggling, in which they feel that they cannot be successful because they aren't prepared to really be successful. And I know I have stories like that, and it's things that I'm definitely still struggling with, even though I've done this for a long time. I'm saying that's a long time, but I'm constantly learning things daily. Being here is another way of accessing information. So I think it is fair. So for me, the question is, how do we approach it, understanding that you have people who don't have easy access, who won't grow up just being able to sit around and hearing those rich conversations where they know if they want to start a business, that they know what they need to do. I think we have to kind of start thinking about solutions to that. And I think we are capable of doing that.
Love that answer. Okay, coming up with solutions so we don't get the crazy questions. I like that. I like that. Kay, have you come across that in your journeys in the book industry?
Oh, absolutely, because I was that person, and honestly still am. I'm not even gonna lie. It's I was literally talking to another author, and she was just like, well, if you had opportunity to do things different, knowing what you know now about, certain publishing companies or the way things are done, would you do things differently? And I told her no, because I am the type of individual where, one, I'm annoying. Like, I'm going to ask you so many questions. I'm very persistent. Amanda can tell you this. I'm going to, if it's something that I want, or if it's something that interests me, I'm going to bug you until I get the answers. When I started writing professionally, I remember I inboxed an author out the blue. I read her book. I loved it, LaTanya West, and I hit her up in Facebook, and I never expected her to answer. And I told her, I said, I want to publish, but I don't know where to start. And that's typically the first question that a lot of people are asked is, well, how do I start publishing? How do I start writing? And I always tell people, you can be a fast writer, a slow writer, whatever, just do a page a day until, you feel like the book is complete. And she actually responded to me, and that freaked me out, because I was like, I grew up on like Terry McMillan, Eric Jerome Dickey, and authors like that. And I could never imagine at that age, like asking them a question and they actually responding. So I'm grateful for social media because I know it is a big gateway for a lot of authors and publishers to communicate with people that we would never think, would. And knowing what I know about the industry now, the main thing I tell people all the time is you have to ask questions, but at the same time, a lot of these publishers and authors have to be willing to help because unfortunately, I do see, especially with Black authors, and I hate to say this, but I do see a lot of Black authors and publishers saying, well, figure it out. I had to work for it. I had to figure it out on my own. So do you. And it makes things difficult. It tarnishes not only your name, but your brand. It makes people not want to work with you. And I'm a very helpful person. I answer a lot of questions. I am the type of person where I like to give advice. You can take it or not. But I think being inquisitive and wanting to learn is awesome because it shows that you're energetic about it. It shows that you're passionate about it. As an author of now, 6 years, I've penned over 50 books. And I'm still learning stuff to this day. I still hit up Amanda, for certain questions. I still hit up other publishers for things that I don't know. And that's fine with me because I feel like you can never not know enough.
I like that. I think all of us are in that same where we're not afraid to ask a question or answer a question. Amanda and I talk every week for our marketing powwow, and they laugh because I have a notebook and I write everything down to the smallest little tidbit because I don't want to miss anything. I guess the reason I posed the question is I'm expecting me from everyone. So I'm expecting everyone to do the homework like I did. I did 8 months of homework before I even decided to, I finally got a name in an LLC and now where do I go?
You did way more than 8 months because you and I started talking about Legacy BookBar 2 years ago.
Wow.
You maybe hardcore 8 months, but it was years of the idea and the market research and all of that before you launched Legacy BookBar. Do not sell yourself short because you did the work for years.
I'm like, I may have done 8 days, but not 8 months. No. I feel
Lord, no, not 8 days.
I just said, I'm gonna start writing. Let's go.
Because I wanted to do it. So everyone that knows me personally knows that Legacy is my baby. I have 3 kids of my own. So Legacy is my heart. It is another box for me. And I would not feel right as a person to create this brand and not do the research to bring in other people. Because this is for you. I'm a read regardless. I can find all of you guys on Amazon, but others, where would they find you? And why do we only have that one network? Why is it only Amazon? You guys deserve to have your books on a shelf. So if no one is going to create the shelf, well, then I'll create it. But I'm not going to create something that's not right. I wouldn't feel right as a person. So I just feel like I did this. That's hardcore 8 months, 2 years of planning, 8 core hard months, then to launch at Amanda's Book Soiree, November 1st, 2019. That was dedication there. So I'm selling your work. You should know everything about your work, the person that's selling your book, the publishing company that you want to go to. Google is free. That ain't never gonna have a fee to it.
Right.
So why aren't you doing the homework? And I guess for me, that's puzzling because I feel like I'm in class every day. Every week, I got a post-it note. This jot, this jot, this jot. I want to, my mind, I'm already in 2021 because what's another way I can market my authors? What can help my romance authors? And I'm like, okay, when's Romance Awareness Month? Okay, what can I do for them? My poet, she's big into spoken word and doing poetry slam jams. It's COVID. What can I do for her? Okay, virtual slam jam. Got it. And I'm always thinking that 10 steps ahead. So if you're going to dive into this amazing industry and this amazing network of people, why aren't you doing your homework? Nicole, I'm going to pose that question to you because you have a different niche. So I know when I talked to you, you were like, well, I have all these horror stories and I had no horror books at all in the store. And I was like, how many horror books do you have? You like, well, I got like 10 authors and they all got like 3 books apiece. I'm like, well, okay. Like I can send you my top 5. And I'm like, let's go. Let's get to work. So what has that been like for you?
So definitely, right. So Mocha is a speculative fiction publisher. We do science fiction, fantasy, and horror. We do occasional romance titles, paranormal romance, dark fantasy romance, right? But one of the things I've noticed, because Mocha's been publishing for 11 years now, and one of the things that I run into with authors is so I'm an author myself. So as a publisher, I spend a lot of time nurturing authors. So if they have questions, I'm always answering them. If they don't feel like they have the right editor, I'll switch it. Like I'm very accommodating because I too am an author, right? And so I understand their perspective and the things that they need, and the things that sometimes need clarifying. But what I always tell newbie writers, or people who are interested in getting their works published, whether it's a short story, whether it's a poem, whether it's a novel, read your contracts. All right, and question it. Because I have sent contract questions back to publishers going, wait a minute, it says in section 5 that about a copyright. Can you clarify this? And so I get those questions from authors who read their contracts. Nicole, what about this? What about that? And have revised contracts based on the things that they ask for. Okay, we can agree to that. Read your contracts, because that's what gets the times that I've had to part ways with authors. They didn't read their contract, and I don't know that. They signed it. I'm assuming they read it. They didn't ask me any questions, so I'm assuming they understood. And when it got down to editing, right? When it got down to, because for us, like for cover art, I'm really flexible. Only because as an author, if the author hates their cover, they will not market it. They just are not going to love their cover, because that's their baby, right? It's like if you dress your child up in the best outfit you can, you're going to want to send them out there and you're going to be proud. Look at my baby, she's cute in this dress, right? Or cute in this outfit. So I am really, as a publisher, because I have an author background, I'm really flexible on a lot of things. And because I recognize that I love your story, I want you happy with the product we put together, because I want you to go out there and sell it. I want you to go out there and be proud of it, because it's a lot of work. People don't understand, writing a novel is a lot of work.
Yes.
It's a lot of blood, it's a lot of sweat, it's a lot of emotional investment. And so I want you to be happy with the product that we put out together. The times that where I've had to part ways with an author, or times I say, you know what, this isn't going to work. Here are your rights back. I wish you luck. Were those authors who should have self-published, right? They wanted a lot more freedom than I could give as a publisher, like way more than Nicole, super flexible, could give. And that's why I mentioned earlier, you kind of need to have that honest self-talk about what you want from the product. Right? Because I think some people apply to me or apply to presses because they want marketing help. They want to do whatever they want with their book, but they want Nicole to market it, or they want Mocha to market it, right? They don't actually write, but that's not how that works. That's what you do when you're self-published, right? So it's only happened twice, right? Where I've taken two authors and say, you know what, I think you should probably self-publish this book because you have you want this, you want that, and these are not the things that I can provide for you. I don't like head hopping in stories. That's not a good practice. It's confusing for readers, but you're dead set on this is what my readers expect from me, then you should probably self-publish it. Right? Because I don't want right, or this scene isn't clear, right? And I've asked you, it's gone through an editor 3 rounds. It's gone through a proofreader 3 rounds. I've allowed you to go back and re-edit that text, right? After I've already spent money on an editor and a proofreader, and you still don't fix what I asked you to fix, right? Right. You've lived with this character. You've lived with this story. I'm a writer. I know this. I know Sybil Lewis better than anybody because I wrote her and I've lived with her for 15, 20 years. But Manina has never seen Sybil. So when she picks up the book, it needs to be crystal clear Sybil's motivations and what that character is doing. If it's not, then my editor and my proofreader didn't do their job. Right? I know what I intended because that's my character. I've lived with her. But as a reader, and that's the thing that I think if you're going to self-publish, sometimes you got to switch hats. This is your baby, yes. But as a reader, they don't know all that stuff that you have invested, all the extra world stuff that doesn't make it into the story. Those are things that I think sometimes, as I mentioned before, I do agree that sometimes it's education. I do like what Kay said about people need to ask questions. You do. You need to ask questions. But you may not know what to ask, right? That's the wrinkle. I don't know what to ask. So for me as a publisher, I spend time with my authors, right? Because I am trying to help them grow. I am vested in them as writers. And like I said, I think that's important. For you to have that conversation up front. And as to the question of why don't you do your homework, sometimes if they don't know what to ask, sometimes they're just really eager to get it published, as I mentioned earlier, to have some patience with homework, to be sure you know what you're getting into. Because I didn't at the beginning. I really didn't. I just threw myself out there because I wanted to be published. So that was me. And so I try to spend time with new writers or with those saying, hey, okay, here's how this works. Right? So you understand we do 3 rounds of editing, we do 3 rounds of proofing, and the publishing company, me, Nicole, has final say. I won't change your voice, I won't change your story, but we do have places where we need clarity for the reader. And so I think that's kind of where, and the last point I'll make, because I feel like I'm rambling, is the technology for publishing changes so quickly and so fast, and the market pivots so quickly and so fast and so often. It's not always possible to stay up to date on what, right? And so I think sometimes some of us are still 3 or 4 years behind in what the market can do, what the market is doing, or what the technology is doing, and we just haven't caught up yet, right? So I think sometimes that is also the wrinkle. Why people don't know things, right? It's because they're just not able to keep up because of family. They're not a full-time writer. All these other things that come into play when you're writing and when you're trying to get your work out there.
Makes sense. Okay, so we got the comments are jumping off like nuts, and this is why I saved you ladies for the very end, because I knew this is the segment that was going to need to be told because people don't know. So I actually had authors in the comments saying, I am enjoying this conversation to hear the other side. She actually tagged a friend of hers to say, you need to hear this because people just don't know. Hey, you had your hand up. You had a
Yeah.
Nicole?
I'm smiling because this hit home, and Amanda can attest to this as well. Like, I talk to Amanda, she's my best friend. I talk to her pretty much every day. I went through a situation when I was signed to a traditional publisher. And there was basically a situation where all of our books were taken down from Amazon. And when I heard her say, read your contract, that was one of the key things that I have always stressed to people. Please read your contract, because you may never think that you can think, oh, this will never happen to me. I'm good. And a lot of the publishers, particularly in my genre, I write what is considered urban fiction, street literature. I write all genres, but I am automatically boxed into urban street literature because of my previous publisher. And one thing that really irritated me was, you have to have communication with your authors. If you're going to be a publisher, Nicole said she actually communicates with, her authors. That is something that as a publisher, you need to know how to do. I shouldn't, as an author, you should not hear from your publisher only right before your book is released. Like, it shouldn't just be a Facebook tag or an Instagram tag. Communicate with your authors, because there were times, like I said, I'm annoyingly nosy. I went to Walmart. Whenever I go to Walmart, I always get my kids' books, and I always go to the section to see what Black authors are in Walmart stores. And I asked one of the managers one day, what would it take to get my books in the stores? And I showed him covers of my books from Amazon. And he told me, honestly, we're not going to take that. And I said, why? And he said, look at the covers. So I took that back to my previous publisher, and I told him, I said, look, this is an issue. Can we not have covers where, the models are half naked, or, there's guns and dollar signs and all of this? Like, I have always been that out of the box girl. I come up with ways to market myself outside of social media. I stay doing book events. I go online and look to see what is in my area. If it's not in my area, I will pack my car up and travel in that truck and put miles on blue like it's nothing. But the one thing that irritated me was, I never had communication with my publisher. It was always, nope, we're going to do it this way. Or I might get a text message a week later after the book has come out, and then there's nothing that can be done. And I felt very stifled. I felt like my creativity wasn't heard, and I wanted out. And even after the books got pulled, it was a hassle, like a lot. And I told Amanda, I was on the phone with her for a month straight, hot. I told her a lot of authors are still fighting for the rights to their books, even though the entire company has been deleted. Nobody was able to get their rights back. And now everybody's having to start over. I have over 50 books gone off of Amazon. I think I have like maybe 8 up right now, but everything else wiped out. So I have to literally self-publish everything all over again. And I will, but it's more so in my time now, because being signed to a publisher, you were expected. In my situation, it was, oh, you need to do 4 books a month, or, oh, you need to be like, I was pumping out 4 books a month, and it was tiring. I don't even think my kids knew who I was during that time frame. So, now I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this the way I want to do it now that I have the knowledge and the information, and I'm going to have my books in bookstores, and I don't want somebody telling me, oh, well, we can't take your book because of a cover or because of a title. Like, it's ridiculous, because half the time my work did not match the cover or the title. And that's what I was trying to stress to them, but you get ignored. So if you're going to be a publisher, communicate with your authors.
Well, Legacy would never. So I'm just, we would never. So Amanda, I'm going to give you that same question, because actually side note, Amanda, yes, is my marketing manager. She has held my hand through pretty much everything, getting Legacy off the ground. And when I have like a business question, like I always send a text like business 101, and then I'll pose the question so she won't think it's just like, hey girl type of text, right? And I actually posed these questions to her. And she had to kind of give me her input from the business side of it, not necessarily as the author side. And I piggyback and what about this, and what do you think of this, and I want to do this, does it make sense? And even as the bookstore owner, I'm communicating with the publishers. Like, so I know, Nicole, I asked you, I was like, hey, I know I got 6 of your I think I had four authors through 6 books, and I'm like, so I need one of them to do a book club. I want this one. Amanda, you got 60 plus authors. I need like 10. I got 7 and counting. Indeed, she just got the whole paranormal side on lockdown. I don't know what she locked that whole side down. So, but I'm communicating like, hey, does this make sense? Is this right? Somebody has a question in this genre. Like, I, as the owner, I ask questions. Mm-hmm. What has been your view? What are your views on that question, Amanda Chambers?
So it's maybe threefold. So the first thing is, I always think about it this way. Authors are not publishers. They're writers. They want to write. They have this story inside of them. They have this this book that they have to get out. But not every author wants to be a publisher. So when we say you don't know these things about publishing, or you don't think to ask, they're not going to think to ask because they want to write. That's what their passion is. It isn't to worry about the rest of this stuff. The problem becomes when people are not honest. And so you get with a publisher because you're a writer, you got to get the story out. It's your passion, it's your life. And you got to get it out. And you trust this person that's in the industry, that's been here for forever, to get your book out, to do right by you, because all you want to do is reach the masses with your work. That's what you want to do. You're not worried about the other aspects of it, because that should be on your publisher. Especially if you're traditionally published. What we have now run into is, and I'm old school, right? So I've been reading since I was 3 years old. I've been fascinated with books my entire life. Anyone who has had a one-on-one conversation with me knows that my childhood was not the best, and I escaped into books. So literally, when I say books are my life, they have been my life. They have saved my life. It is my life. So I paid attention to the publishing industry when I was a child. I read books about it. I followed there was this show, Book TV, on either CNN, CSC, one of them C's. Anyway, I used to watch that because, that was my thing. I was probably the only 8-year-old watching C-SPAN or whatever it was on. And so it used to be that this, the publishing industry was this kind of high regard. Oh my gosh, you've written a book? Well, and it's been published. And like many other things, it has gone through changes. It has gone through a metamorphosis, if you will. And some of that has turned into, not everyone, but some people being worried more about quantity versus quality versus this versus that. And so when you're an author, and all you want to do is write, and you trust someone who's in this industry to do right by you because you've done your part, you've written it, and that doesn't happen, it's kind of like, to me, it's almost like victim blaming, because it's not my job to know this part. It's my job to write this book and to get it to you on the schedule that you put me on, and to get these edits back to you. And it's your job to do do right by my book, to put the right cover, to be honest about who holds the copyright, because I've seen publishing companies not copyright under their author, but copyright it to the publishing company, which means now the copyright is owned by the publishing company, not the author. If you ever try to recluse your contract, you leave without your book. That's a problem. And I will get mad when I talk about this, so I'm gonna move on. But it is, I don't want us, now you should have a certain knowledge. You should have a certain knowledge of the things that you need to be doing as an author. So I'm not saying that, you know, authors are absolved of any having to do their homework, having to learn, because there are things you should know as an author. But I don't think that an author should be held accountable for the things that a publisher is supposed to know. So there's that part. You should know about your genre. I studied romance. I knew what it was going to be a Black romance author. Anyone who's familiar with romance in any way, shape, or form knows the controversy that just happened with the Romance Writers of America and all of that. That was a complete, Lord, I almost cussed.
So I was thinking the same thing, and I was like, "Oh, I can't say this on camera."
Almost cussed, Lord. But
it was a disaster.
It was a disaster. It was horrible. So you've got all these Black authors that have paid into this place, that have become members of this place, that have put their trust in following the practices of this organization, only to find out you don't give a crap about us. I will knock all of this stuff over. Do you understand me? I will knock all of it over, because how dare you? How dare you? So again, authors are responsible for being authors, but they're not responsible for being publishers. We're responsible for understanding our genre, our things, knowing, you know, yes, read your contract. On the other hand, as an author, knowing that you don't know publisher stuff, you need to trust your publisher, you need to trust your coach, you need to trust whoever it is that you're working with in the publishing, you know, game, I guess, if you will. Because I mean, and even in my company, I've had authors who didn't want to listen to what I was saying is the industry standard. What I teach is industry standard. I make sure that your book doesn't go out looking crazy. The cover is acceptable. Your barcode is on there. Your barcode matches your ISBN because they were purchased together and not on some wild website that gave you a discount. Don't do that, y'all. And, you know, the inside is formatted correctly. When you open it, it looks like a book off of the shelf on Barnes & Noble, not a double-spaced college essay. That's a problem. And so when you don't want to listen about things that are industry standard, things that you can go on Barnes & Noble and grab a book off the shelf and see that I'm telling you the right thing, then we're going to have a conversation. I'm not going to stop you. I'm still going to teach you everything that I know. But what won't be on your back cover is Divine Legacy's logo. What won't be in the front is proudly self-published by. It's not going to happen because you're not going to mess up my brand after I told you. So there it is. That is my take on that. You have to know your role as an author. Publishers, whether they're self-publishing companies or traditional publishing companies, need to know their role. Be honest. Money is going to be made. Readers are going to read. And in these COVID streets, readers are reading at an exponential rate because there's nothing else to do.
Nothing to do.
So with that, I strongly urge people, yes, know your genre, know all that, read your contracts, understand what you're signing yourself into. I've helped authors. There have been authors that have come to Divine Legacy from other companies. I've had to help them with the reclusion letter. I've had to help them figure out if they own their copyright. I've had to explain to them that if you were issued an ISBN, then you don't own that ISBN because you're not the imprint on it. You were issued that ISBN, which means that company owns the ISBN, not you. So these are things, you make yourself acquainted with. And I actually have a blog that I wrote that gives the industry vocabulary, if you will, things that, you need to know. So I try my best to educate, even if you're not with Divine Legacy, because that's on the Divine Legacy website. So, anybody can read that. Be aware of playing your part. Be aware, that other people play their parts, but be aware of your part and what you're required to know. And I think that's the most important thing.
I love it. This has been oh gosh, this is again why I saved you ladies for last, because I knew you were gonna give me some good stuff. Comments are going bananas right now. People, and I'm so pleased that it's actually authors that are actually commenting, because they are getting some really great knowledge and wisdom from you ladies, probably stuff that they weren't aware of. Michelle Warren, who is a DLP author, who also has her book sold in Legacy BookBar, says, yes, books saved me, both writing and reading. Amanda has held my hand the whole way. Amanda Chambers, that is the truth. Trust the process. I have seen the alternative. That was Shertan Jones. Maureen Mays says, can that be the next conference? Loving the knowledge being shared. Absolutely. So please stay tuned to 2021. That is my plan. Absolutely. So please stay tuned. Question from the panel, which is a really good, it was actually my next question on my list of questions I had for just the publishers, was let's talk distribution. So many authors don't understand distribution, how it happens, where it goes to, how to do it. So let's talk about that really quickly, because I think one of you or both of you, and maybe all of you, talked about your book covers and illustration. And I actually had an illustrator send me 5 key points on their tips to submitting your work to them and knowledge of book cover. So we're gonna go to that one really quickly. But let's talk about distribution. What we do, how we do it, what's going on. Who got it? who want to go first? Indy, you want to go first?
Sure. I think you start with the understanding of, one, you need to know all the online platforms. If you're self-published, even if you go through traditional books, especially if you're self-published, there are definite decisions that you need to make. One being, since Amazon is such a huge powerhouse, right? So a lot of people definitely want to funnel their books through Amazon. Heck, I can drive like 5 minutes down to the store, and now they have what is it at Whole Foods, right? So now at Whole Foods, you can go down there, because now Amazon has partnered with all of these different people. So now stuff that was online can now be physical. So you want to find out, do you want to do something, called Kindle Unlimited, in which you give Amazon, for example, exclusive rights to your book, and you will receive a higher royalty at 70%. And so you have to understand, what does that mean far as that exclusivity? And that's a part of what you need to know in terms of a contract too, because that word exclusivity versus what is non-exclusive is huge. So you would need to decide if you want to be exclusive to Amazon, and you can read many different articles, blog posts, books, as far as the pros and cons there. Or do you want to take your book wide? And so wide just simply means it's going to be distributed at all different types of places. So you're really out there. So you could be, iTunes, and you can be in the library system. And that's huge too, by the way, if you could really get into the library system, if you're going to be on Barnes and Nobles, of course, if you're going to do ebook and audiobook, and paperback. So you want to think about not only, whether you're going to be exclusive, but how wide you are, but also the different formats you want your books in, because the more formats you're able to have your books in, the broader your readership. There's some people I've posted online, and some of the first things they ask me is if I have the book in audiobook. And so far, I've only been able to do 2 of my books in audiobooks. So know, some people absolutely love audiobooks and some people detest them. But the point is, if you have audio, if you have ebook, you have paperback, you're really appealing to a broader swath of readers, and that gives you a greater entry into them as far as introducing your works to them. So it's quite a bit that you really probably need to know. But I mean, like I said, you could read most basic books. You can get that. Amanda talked about the ISBN and stuff like that. That's really huge, important information that people need to know when you're when you have your books in different formats. So those some decisions that you need to make and understand as far as distribution, because it directly impacts how widespread your books are, and also ultimately how much money you will receive in return from for your purchases.
Got it. Okay. Amanda, I'm actually going to pose that same question to you, because I know you and I have had different conversations over the last year or so about distribution.
Right. So Indy is right, you know, with the different ways that you can distribute, being the audiobook, that so many people have asked me for my books an audiobook, and I'm like, I don't know what I write, right? Y'all want to listen to that? Okay. But I actually that was one of the few things that I didn't have a resource for my authors, which I do now. So any DLP authors who are watching or listening, that was one of the surprises for our authors weekend next week. Oop, blew the top off of that one. Whoops. But that is one of the things that people will ask me. And so it's very important, like Indy said, to make your work available in every way that you can, because there are some people who only listen to audiobooks, and it's, you know, life is busy. So while you're typing or while you're doing that might be, or driving, exactly. That's the only way. And that's a very good point, because my first job out of grad school was at a college. I taught English at a college, and the college was an hour and a half away. And I promise you, Eric Jerome Dickey got me through those hour and a half drives one way, because I was going to the library, and that was a little old. That's when they were on CD. CD in the car. So, and so I would go to the library and get the CDs and, you know, listen to it. And so it's very important to make your work available. I'm very proud to say that my children's book with my daughter, it's National Authors Day, and y'all don't even understand how over the moon I am that I get to share this day with my 7-year-old. There it is, with my 7-year-old, because she is a published author with her mama. But her book will be available in audiobook before the end of the year. It's the first book that I'm putting through. It's the shortest, so, you know, went there with that. But, you know, it's very important to make sure that you do it as available as possible. You need to, you know, there's some people I know that will only read Kindle. They want to be able to have, you know, pull out their phone. It'll show them exactly where they were. And then I have some diehard, do not put anything electronic in my hand. I need to be able to flip through the pages. I need to be able to dog ear the pages as I'm reading and all of that. I am one of those people. I'm a relic. I'm old. It's what I do. And so I'm the paperback person. When my authors put out books, I'm like, when will I have mail, please? And I get so excited when they come. So there's my book, my first book. And so, you know, I'm a paperback person. So that was one of the things I learned, because when I put my first book out, it was only available on Kindle. And that was partially because I thought that was the most popular format, but also because I was broke at the time, and there was only one format that was going to be able to come out at that point. And so I had so many people messaging me like, "Where's the paperback? Oh, y'all had wanted? Okay, No problem. No problem. So I took the money that I got from Amazon, my first payout, and I went and got my ISBN and my barcode and all of that, and I put out the print version. And there's that, and that's what happened. But that taught me that there are people who want different things. When it comes to using the different platforms, like Indy said about the Kindle Unlimited, if you are okay with being only on Kindle for your ebook, it's a wonderful thing. It's a wonderful way to market because people are going to pay that monthly fee. And then you can use the term free with Kindle Unlimited. Now, is it free? No, they paying for it. They paying a monthly fee to be able to get to it. But since they already have it in their mind that I'm paying this monthly fee, they're not going to have to pay extra for your book. So that's why you can use the terminology. You're not going to have to pay extra. It's on Kindle Unlimited. Does it limit you? Yes. But personally, now I make sure that all my authors know, the different options with, iBooks, Smashword, everything, Nook, everything. But I also, when they ask me, because a lot of them will say, well, what's your personal preference? And I'd always tell them, this is just my personal preference, but I don't hear nobody saying, oh, I got to go get that on my Nook. Sorry, Barnes & Noble. I just don't. But I do hear, is it on Kindle? Is it on Kindle? Is it on Kindle? So when I'm trying to maximize what I think my profit will be, I'm always going to go with what I feel is popular. Now, 3-4 years down the line, that might not be the most popular, and it's important to stay up on distribution avenues and stuff like that. But I'm always going to go where I think I'm going to make the most money with the situation that I think is going to pay out the most. And at the moment, Kindle Unlimited is paying pretty good. So that's where I stay. But I do have some authors who opted not to do Kindle Unlimited and to have their book all over the place. And that is not bad either. I mean, you're in different places. If one of them takes off, like for a while there, nobody even knew what Smashwords was. And then boom, it was all everywhere. So, then you have you're already established.
Smashword, is that popular? Is that new?
It's up and coming.
I'm learning something new today. So have we all
up and coming? It's something that I'm watching to see if it's like, going to peak at, I got popular for a minute and then peace out, or if it has staying power. But it's definitely something to watch.
Gotcha.
And so, it's important to understand distribution avenues and understand which distribution avenues take out what money and where all that is going, because there are some that I call the third parties that you go through them, they put it on Amazon, then they take out their part, Amazon still takes out their part, and now you've lost a chunk of money that you didn't have to lose because you could literally just put it on Amazon yourself.
You said a word.
Now, I hope y'all are getting all of this free knowledge on here with these ladies, because I don't know any other. I don't know who would give y'all this free knowledge anywhere else. I hope y'all have your notebook and your pens and paper, because this right here is all knowledge. Y'all just got hit with all these truth bombs. It's amazing. So I know.
Can I talk about
say that again?
distributors too, or?
I'm actually going to, because of my publishers, I know how you guys are with your covers, and between Indy and Nicole, I am, especially Indy, she knows I am an avid. I loved her covers before I even read the books. So I want to drop these 5 factors that an illustrator gave me. And I want to get your input, Nicole, and Indy's input on these 5 facts. And then author K, you as an author, I want to get your input from that side of the ball. Okay. So this is what she gave us, right? She said,
eating a cookie. I'm sorry. I'm pregnant and hungry, so y'all might see me eating a cookie. I'm sorry.
Oh,
I was struggling over here, but yeah, little womb raider in here like feed me. So my bad.
Feed the babies. We're not going to let you starve. Please feed. If you need to step away for a second, we totally understand. So here was her tidbits, okay? 5 factors to consider before meeting an illustrator, okay? The images in a children's book are nearly as important as the text. I think authors, illustrators, and consumers alike can come to a consensus on that, okay? So she said, to assist authors in search of an illustrator to bring their stories to life, I've outlined 5 key factors to consider before meeting with an illustrator. Here are the 5 facts. Have a story. An author should already have a book written before reaching out to an illustrator. The author is free to research, consider the style of artwork that they want in their book, but reaching out to an artist before the book is written is just an unnecessary step. That was 1. Have a budget in mind is number 2. Art prices vary. Most illustrators value themselves based on their experience, quality, and their time. Some illustrators charge an hourly fee. Some have set rates per pages. Others may require payments upfront and expect royalties once the book is for sale. That's book 2. That's fact 2. Number 3, have your book divided into pages. She says this step is vital. The author should separate the text of their book into pages. This will let the illustrator know how many images they need to create. Keep in mind that each page should have some type of action idea that can easily translate into illustration. Also check with your publisher to know how many pages you will need. 4th one, have a description for each page. Know what you want. Have ideas in mind. During the writing process, I'm sure you visualized each scene in your mind. Jot those ideas down for the illustrator. You may be thinking it isn't what the book itself is for. Can't the illustrator just read the book? Don't worry. I'm sure the illustrator will read your book, especially if it's a children's book. The problem there is the text in most children's books leave a lot of room for a child's imagination to wander. And then she had an example for this particular fact. Page 1 may read, Jim is starting 1st grade today. An illustrator could imagine Jim as fair-skinned child who's tall for his age, and he has this huge smile. The illustrator may draw the child playing with kids on a colorful rug in a classroom, but the author may envision a child with a darkened complexion, curly hair, nervous expression, sitting in a corner holding an apple for his teacher. Be specific in what you want that illustrator to give for your page, is what I'm gathering from this tidbit. Last one. Understand the illustrator's requirements. Review whatever stipulations that you can obtain, which i.e. means read your contract is what I'm guessing that means. This will give you a chance to make sure you want to go with this illustrator. Some of their requirements may become a deciding factor for you. An illustrator may have their prices, timelines, expectations, or availability listed on their website or social media. Consider all of that, all of the above listed requirements, and it's okay to reach out to the illustrator. So those were quick 5 factors that this particular illustrator gave us that I want to talk about. Indy Jones. Now, she doesn't write children's novels, at least not yet that she's told us, but her cover art is out of this world. Like, so I know with previous conversations, I know she is very diligent on her artwork for her covers. So I want to get your feedback on these 5 facts. And then Nicole, you will go. And then Arthur K., you will finish up with this question. Indy, you can go.
Okay, thank you. I think I talk about two points. And one, well, Kay, congratulations on your little one. By the way, I don't want to speed past that. That's exciting.
In 5 months.
But I am gonna talk about that. You know, I have this made me think when you said that you are annoying, right? You said you ask all these questions. I wouldn't use that word annoying. You're just doing what you need to do to get things right. And that's how I feel about my covers. I have this one cover artists, and there's probably like 3 or 4 that I use consistently. She heard that Crimson Hunter. I love that one. I can't even talk. She's sitting up there moving and working back and forth. But one of my cover designers, on her website, she has like 3 levels of author involvement. So one of her levels is just trust me, right? Just so you give them the information, and then with hardly any input, and she'll just make you this cover. That's not me. I don't have a trust me bone in my body when it comes to um to my covers. So she knows I swing way on the other end, in which I give her so much detail, because I have an image in my head, and it's not always in the end as far as what I want the cover to look exactly like. Because I do think, as an author, as a publisher, you want to leave a certain level of wiggle room, a certain level of flexibility for the artist's creativity, because that's a whole different thing. My daughter, she just started, she's in animation, she started college, and her mind, it works differently than mine, even though we're both creative people. So you don't necessarily want to pigeonhole them, you want to leave some wiggle room, but I'm really clear and specific about what I want. And I think if you have clear ideas, some nice thoughts, really are actively engaged with your cover designer, that if the more work or the more details and information you can give that cover designer up front, the more likely that when you've received that first, second, or whatever draft, is closer to what you really want. And it cuts down on a lot of the discussion. It cuts down on a lot of perhaps misunderstandings, because perhaps you really weren't clear from the beginning. And so therefore you have a person who is an artist who's trying to give you what you want. But if you haven't really given that person a lot of direction, then they are answering a lot of questions that you haven't answered. And so if you don't know what it looks like, they're going to tell you what it looks like. And now you're like, that's not what I really wanted. So you need to really be clear. Think about that. So that's what I do when I have a cover made from scratch. I really know, and I take a lot of time describing my characters. I have accounts at Deposit Photos. I spend a lot of time on Deposit Photos. I could probably tell you most of daggone Black men who are very attractive on Deposit Photos. Same thing with women, because we all who do some level of romance, we all use them, because it's not the source material is not really heavy. But when you talk about doing your research, that's part of it too. Go on to those stock photos, find the images that work for your characters, and find background images that work, find logos, whatever it is that you really want to use. I take that time and I download a bunch of stuff and I shoot them to my cover designers. And I'm not saying you have to use this, but I'm telling you, it should be something that looks like this, or it should be this. What can you make this work? Does it even make sense? Does what I have in my mind make sense from a creative lens? I'm having this discourse with you before you even start your work. So you want to put that in there first. Some of my other covers, I literally have original concept art made. The special edition cover for my A Queen's Pride, I had the goddess character Sekhmet. And guys, I can tell you, I still use Fiverr, not for my cover designers, but I use Fiverr because I've been able to find some excellent artists on Fiverr. I found some duds there on any of my covers, but you can find excellent artwork on artists, graphic designers on Fiverr. And I can tell you literally what I do is I use Pinterest. I go through saying, I will do outfits, pictures of outfits. I'll do jewelry, every aspect of what I want that artist to know, especially if you're working with an artist who's not used to drawing African Americans or Black people or what have you. I have a lot of international people on Fiverr. I work with a lot of people from Pakistan and from India. They have never drawn a Black person. So if you want it to look a certain way, if you want that person to have dreadlocks or to have braids, you don't want a big old space in between. Sorry, I hate that. With, I hate that art when you see all the scalp. If you don't want that in your picture, you have to look that stuff up. So I literally will go through every aspect. I'll create a Word document, and I'm very specific, and I give them images. Images is the best way to share your information. It is stronger than the words. So write the words down, but take your time and go through and find as many different images as possible so they can have a better idea of what you want. The more effort you put into it, the closer your designer will get to achieving your goal. And I've had a lot of success because I put a lot of that work in. And when you say annoying, I always use the word anal to describe myself, but that's what it is. But I'll put all that in. And so I'll have that original concept art, and then I'll hire a cover designer to do the other piece. And so I've found a lot of success. So my Dragon Lore and Love book, that's original concept art. My Bound Souls, my Faded Path, that's original concept art. And I'll do a few more. And the great thing, and this is the last thing I'll say, is that when you engage in having your original concept art, you own that art. So to make sure that you own it, it's a work for hire, that you own all commercial rights to that piece. And once you own it, the beauty of it, you can put it anywhere. I have a Redbubble account. I have an Etsy account. You can use it on so many different things because you have total ownership over that. So you want to make sure you understand that. And it's the same thing when you look at stock photos. You want to make sure you understand the commercial rights and the distribution with that. But that's the benefit of when you have your own artwork done, because it opens up other revenue streams for you. And it could work out to be really additional nice way of having another way of having passive income too. So that's just an additional piece that I'm adding for when you think about your cover art, if you're going to have it done yourself. But my major takeaway is for you is to know what you want, to be as specific as possible, to have that vision in your head. And when Author K talked about her cover not matching her genre, that should never happen. Because that's the big thing that really sells it. It should. A person should look at your cover and know the genre. And if that is not connected, then you're going to have a very frustrated reader, a very angry reviewer.
Yeah.
So you want to make sure those things are blended together when you're looking for your cover artist. So sorry, I didn't mean to have a really long answer, but I hope
I love it. No, I appreciate it because again, truth to words, this is what you get when you take that time and you do all of the steps that the illustrator has given us and that Indy Jones has given. You get these. You get top sellers. This is what you get because we love it. So yes. So Nicole, same question. Now you have do you have illustrators on site for you?
I do.
Okay.
I have two illustrators that work for us, and then I also have three artists that I go to pretty consistently for covers.
So do you agree with the 5 factors of illustration?
Okay. We send authors like a cover artist sheet and a cover art sheet. And so it's developed by our in-house cover artist. And it has all those questions, right? Like, what does the heroine look like? What does the hero look like? Give me a blurb. What location? What's important? What genre? All that stuff is outlined for you, the author, to fill out so that we can kind of put together the kind of cover that you want. And then that cover has to be approved by the author once we put it together. And then they have up to 3 changes that they can make before. But honestly, if they really don't like it after those 3 changes, we just switch it up. So yeah, that's definitely it. We have a process.
So quick question, and this is for before I go to that question, Kay, as an author, because I know you talked about this, where is this the key factors that I just read? Did you know any of that prior to? Said your books some of your books, the cover didn't match the story.
I did. That's how I learned about the 5 factors. I agree with 4 out of 5. there is one that I am guilty of that I do quite frequently. Amanda knows which one it is. Sorry, but
I'm gonna have to read and figure out which one it is. Now let's see.
I have a tendency to buy covers and get covers before I write the book. And
it drives me crazy.
And I know it irks Amanda, but the reason being, I am so stuff just pops up in my head. Like I could write a book and then not have an idea as to what kind of cover I want.
Do not feel bad, Kay. I buy covers the way some women buy clothes. I have a folder, which is a stable of covers that I don't have stories for. So I
have like 15 covers right now that don't have books yet, but they have outlines. Like I'll see a cover and say, oh my God, I just got an idea for a book just looking at the cover. And like some of the artists that I use, one in particular, Brittany Williams, she's amazing. She'll have these sales where you buy credits. So you can do like $100 and it'll give you like 5 different book covers. And I'm quick to get it. And she does pre-sale covers all the time. And the covers are, they're pretty inexpensive. They're like anywhere between $35 to $50. So when I see it, I'm like, oh, this looks good. And then I'll buy it and the outline just comes to me like that. And usually I'll do the outline so Amanda can stop looking at me like that, like I'm crazy. I'll do the outline, but then I have so many different characters in my head because I'm also a ghostwriter. I have to bounce back to whatever it is that I was doing and just say, okay, I'll come back to that. So for me, that's my little guilty thing. I do buy the covers a lot before I write the book, but I know that as long as I have that outline, that book is gonna get done.
Is that now? Just like don't look at Amanda because she got her eyebrow raised. Like don't even look at her.
She hates when I do that. I just send her a cover and she's like, "Oh, so when is the book coming out, huh?"
Oh Lord. Okay.
And I was just like, "Oh, it'll come."
Listening to that, is that not, or it sounds like so overwhelming to do that. I'm like, just me being curious, like no shade, no judging. It's just like, that sounds like a lot to have all of these covers and you have no book. That just seems like it's too much space up there. Like what are you doing?
Not necessarily like for me. I can think of about 7 different covers that I have right now where the book has been started, where I'll get 5 or 6 chapters done. But then, like I said, characters, I really feel like I have ADD when it comes to writing because I can be working on a book and be in a good flow. And then a character from a completely different book pops up and it's just like, hey, work on me. Hey, I got this idea. And then I have to pop over to that book and I'm writing and then still have books for my clients, So yeah, Amanda, she's used to this behavior for me. So if I talk to her and I tell her, oh, I'm working on this book, and she'll just be like, okay, well, we'll see when it comes out, But I told her, and like I tell everybody else, if you have that type of personality, if you have that type of mindset, as long as you can handle it, I don't see a problem with it, but that's just me because I'm used to it. So there are others that are just like, oh no, I'm going to do this book first. Like at this point, I've removed myself from these groups because I don't need to spend not near another penny until I finish the 15 covers that I have. I'm like, okay, that'll, I'm trying to get at least 6 to 7 more books out before CJ gets here. So yeah, I had to take myself out of the group because I know me, I'm an impulse buyer and I will see it. And I don't want that person that lives an hour away from me to come and get me. And yeah, the lady that's pointing to herself.
So take off the publisher's hat, ladies. On the author side, do you ladies write more than one book at a time?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Kay said yes. Indy said no.
I don't put me out there by myself. Okay.
Well, not write them. Let me rephrase that. I don't write them at the same time, but what Kay, I can't call you Kay. What Kirsten, that's
Give
her real
everybody
name.
my
Drives me
government.
crazy.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I can't help it. I've known this girl for like a gajillion years, and like when I try to call her Kay, it just doesn't translate.
At least she's calling me
But
by my
what
name.
happens when your best friend is a publisher and y'all been friends?
Drives me crazy.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But so I will be writing a book because my books, and I guess I need to preface it with this, because my books are connected. So they are standalones in their story. The story is completed in one book, but you meet the characters for book 3 in book 1. You meet a character who's going to appear in book 15 in book 4. So because of that, as I'm writing these books and I'm introducing these new characters, I'm like, oh, he got to get a book though. So then I go over and I at least write a summary or an outline. So I have roughly across 3 of these journals that my husband gets really annoyed because I buy them, because I probably downstairs have about 20, 30 journals because they're so pretty and you have to buy. Okay, anyway. So across,
she talks about me. But she talks about me. Okay.
Across about 3 or 4 of those journals, I have the outline summary something describing over 50 books. Because the characters will manifest themselves. You meet the characters for book 2 in book 1. Book 3 is one of the characters that you met in book 1. Book 5 is the best friend of the character in the main male character in book 1. So as I'm writing, the character will appear and it's like, okay, I know she's going to get a book. I don't know what sequence she's going to appear in, but I know she's going to get a book. And as I'm developing her sub character in the book I'm currently writing, I'm translating that into the character to keep them consistent, because the most annoying thing that I have ever encountered as a reader is revisiting a character later on in another book and that person is completely different. What do you mean?
Yeah.
What do you mean? So I will simultaneously develop that character so that they remain consistent across the books.
Okay.
So I don't write the books at the same time, but I do develop them at the same time, if that makes sense.
Okay. ND, what about you? Do you outline multiple, or do you start one and then once that one is done, you go to the next?
You remember that word I said was anal? No. I can't do it. I can't do it. I know I was like the K going back and forth. I can't. I write literally one book at a time. I give it all my energy, all my focus. I wake up with ideas, and I can't have competing thoughts and characters and all that that's rich stuff in my head. And I'm a very sequential thinker, which means I write in that exact same way. So I can never write chapter 5 before I've written, the previous 4. I just can't. I can't do it. So I'll devote all my time. So right now I'm devoting all my time to book 2 of you've read A Queen's Pride. So I'm writing off that story. So she's a supporting character now. She's her own.
I'm sorry, y'all.
And I've been writing that book for like the last 2 months. So I'm trying to, finish that so it can be open have it ready for the new year. But no, I just devote all my time to one and then I move on. I am like Arthur K. I have purchased quite a few pre-mades. She didn't use that word, but that's what she was describing. And I think that authors, is an aside, authors, we have sometimes when it comes to covers, beautiful covers, we can be very addictive, like she said, and we can hoard covers. I think that's what Nicole was saying as well. We can hoard covers. But I will say that I've purchased pre-base that I thought were absolutely beautiful, and it's because when I looked at them, they generated a story inside of me. And so So that's how when Manita talks about A Queen's Pride, I saw that in A Story Came, and I loved it. So it wasn't one that I was being my anal self and had someone create, but it was something that was so beautiful. It had a strong African American sister on there, and I was like, I can write a story with that. So sometimes, there is a role, I think, for pre-mades in there for authors, especially authors. Sometimes it could really help them see a story where maybe they did not have one before, but we do have to be really careful, because I definitely have a bunch of covers that are just waiting for stories to be written. So I put myself
I
on a
don't feel
bed.
judged now. I don't feel judged.
It's not just you, Kay.
It's not.
Very judgmental.
Amanda's still gonna judge you, but it's
Yeah.
the rest of us.
It's okay. I can just ignore her.
Just put yourself on a band, like I did, Arthur. Okay, just put yourself in a band until you've gone through at least 7 more of those pre-makes, and you don't feel so guilty.
I'm not.
Until we get.
I'm done on covers until I put a few more out.
Got you, Nicole. On your author hat, same question. Are you stockpiling covers too?
I do. Yes. So, and it's really horrible because I have 4 really. Tara Reid is one of them. Danielle Fine is another. When they have sales, it's like a clearance at a high-tail retailer. And what I really like about the work, especially with Danielle and Tara uses her own models, so you won't find those models on iStock or Adobe or Dreamrealm or any of those other places, because those are her unique places, her unique people. Danielle Fine's work, especially when she does people of color or Black people, is just gorgeous work. And I am often hard pressed to say no, I don't need that cover. But I also think I stockpile a lot because it's so rare to find good quality covers with Black women. So when I see them, I tend to snatch those up if I have the funds, right? And just kind of hoard them.
So I think, and I missed this question with you. So do you write multiple books at a time, or do you kind of like indie one at a time?
I gotta do one at a time. And I'm like indie in that I can't. Like, if I am Sybil Lewis today and I'm writing Sybil's story, I have to remain Sybil. I can't go off and be, Sarah from the Minister Knights of Souls. I have to be Sybil, and I have to be in that headspace, in that world. And I write linear. I can't write chapter 7. And Indy, I can't. When you said that, I was like, that's me too. And it could be because I'm older, and I grew up writing like outlines, and my degrees are in English, so everything is linear. So I don't write.
That part, those English degrees and being older will have you so set in your ways. I have to have an outline. I have to write linear. I get itchy thinking about doing it any other way. I teach all the ways to my authors, but me personally,
judgment right now. Like,
I feel so judged. But I mean, you were vindicated on the covers thing, because I am the anomaly here. I literally don't even talk to my cover designer, my illustrator, anybody, which, by the way, just a huge shout out to the illustrator who wrote what Manina was reading off to everyone. That is the artist in residence for Divine Legacy Publishing, Mynesia Steele, my favorite artist in the whole world. So
shout out, because she did all of the work for.
I wondered. Yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
That is Mynesia Steele. And I tell you no lie, when I recently had to have emergency surgery, and I went back and had my post-op, and my surgeon, who had tried to talk to me to keep me calm while I was in the hospital, I had told him I wrote a children's book. He went and found it and gave it to the nurses at the clinic. I go in there, and they were like, well, what does your daughter look like? And so I pulled, she's my only kid, so she's all over my phone. And I pulled up the most recent picture, and they go, that's the little girl, and it literally looks like her. And I was like, well, because she's the little girl in the book. And they were like, yeah, but sometimes they don't look alike. And they were like, that's literally her. And I was like, oh no, my illustrator is everything you want in this world. So yes. But I just want to say, I'll admit that I am in the the anomaly with the whole covers thing, because my new book that I'm almost done with still doesn't have a cover because I don't commission the covers until I am done. I have to
try, but you like to mess with people. You know how my personality is.
Because then I feel like it's looking at me like, please give me a book to go on. I'm looking at you.
But in a way, it's motivation. Like when I get, like I said, when I see one of those covers, I'm like I'm working on my first horror, which is awesome for me because I write everything from, and even Amanda doesn't know this, I write under 2 other names. She has no clue about, ma'am. No. So
all the way judged. All the way. I can't even help
and she can judge me later. But
I revoke the best friend status. Revoke.
And that's fine. It'll be back in a couple of hours. She'll calm down. But you know, I see that as motivation. When I get these covers, like I said, for me, it's like something wakes up in me and it's just like, oh my God, like I start literally seeing the story playing out in front of me when I look at the cover, and I'm like, okay. And like Nicole was saying, one of my artists, she uses her own models because unfortunately, when you look on the internet, you don't really see you don't see variety of Black men and women. And it sucks because I have seen so many covers where I have seen the same Black woman. There's one in particular, this one woman that's got a lot of curly hair. And I have seen her on like 18 covers. And I'm like, oh my, to the 3 living gods, this is bothering me. So I love the fact that she uses her own authors. She'll set up photo shoots, not authors, excuse me, her own models. She'll set up photo shoots and things like that. But, you know, she's amazing. So of course, when I see them and I'm hearing, oh, you can get 5 covers for $100. Oh, okay, let me go ahead, you know. And then when I see the pre-mades and they're amazing, it makes me say, okay, hey, you know what? I bet I could make a story with this. And I saw one cover where the guy looked like he was a ghost. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to do a horror. So Amanda is she's on some other stuff, but you know, that's fine for her. But I see
her on her island,
right, by herself.
I'm soaking it all in because I mean, what do I know? I just sell it. Once y'all get together, I then sell it and I just go with it. So it's cool. You ladies have been absolutely phenomenal today. Thank you so much. This capped off my 1-year anniversary of a Legacy Book Bar. I could not ask for a better panel than you ladies and the panels that came before you. Comments were, of course, gone nuts today. It was great. I am definitely going to have to figure out how to do some type of panel, a writing seminar, something with you ladies, because clearly the need to write and have it done properly, the need is calling. So we have to figure out how we can make it work, if we should have it designed for, if you want to do romance, if you want to do paranormal, if you want to do horror, or just all of them in a cluster. I don't know. We have to figure that out. But you know I'm going to come up with something because I think this is what we need. And what better way is to have you ladies, the best in the business, in my opinion. Why not have you guys lead the charge for that? My anniversary, yay! I am so humbled to have you ladies here. You did not you weren't squeamish. You trusted me. I hope I have lived up to your expectations of having your book sold in my store. 2021 is going to be equally amazing. I cannot wait to see what I have planned come to fruition. Hopefully I get to see you ladies in person in 2021. God forbid. I'm gonna need COVID to get some act right because this has just been brutal. I can't deal with this. But again,
it ain't COVID that needs to act right, it's the humans.
Well, them too.
I need the humans to get the act right and stop.
Come on, somebody. And I definitely want to say want to say a prayer, or I pray for Ebony Abbey's family because she recently passed from complications due to the diagnosis of COVID. So that just popped in my head. She was a wonderful author and just overall person and spirit. Like, I don't know if anybody is familiar with her, but she was an amazing person to, you know, for people to think that this corona is like a conspiracy theory. It is not. There are so many people that are, you know, passing away and being diagnosed, and their lives are affected forever. So if you can stay home, please stay your butt at home. Please practice social distancing, because I don't want to keep going on social media seeing rest in peace.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And it's huge in the Black community. Our numbers are so disproportionately high.
Absolutely. Wear a mask, please.
Yes, mask, get the hand sanitizers. If you don't have to go out,
Hand sanitizer,
don't
spray.
Have to go out. I agree.
Everything you can do, wear a mask, everything. And while we're talking, vote.
Vote. Yes.
Yes.
Tuesday. If you have not
Go
already,
vote.
Tuesday is your day. It is your voice.
Yes.
Do not silence yourself by not voting.
Exactly.
Absolutely. So with that, vote, stay safe. Again, I want to thank the entire panel. We had 13 authors on the panel today. I had no clue how I was going to make that work, but we got through to the end. So all the ones in the first segment, my pre-show, the second segment, thank you so much. For my newest authors, Jamal Brown and Denise Morgan, thank you so much. Also, Brie Lynette, she signed in the last month. Any incoming authors, if you have a book out in whatever genre and you would like a home for your book, please feel free to visit www.legacybookbar.com. If you need to publish a book, I do not publish. That is not my lane. It's not my ministry. I'm not going to be, no. So you have listened to this broadcast. You have shared this feed. There are 3 amazing self-published owners on this broadcast. Please reach out to them. They will get you to where you need to be. And then you will come to me. That's not me. If you are looking and you need a home, please feel free to send me a DM. Please go to info@legacybookbar.com. We will figure something out for you, whatever it may be. Again, ladies, thank you so much. I am truly humbled by your presence, your support, your love. Thank you so much. I'm going to end the broadcast because I told myself I was not going to cry today, and I'm not going to do it. And I've gotten this far, and I'm not going to do it now. So be back here next Friday. We have our 11th episode of the Sip and Chat. Black Friday is upon us. Legacy Book Bar will be back at White Marsh Mall. All of these authors you see here throughout the day will be with me at Legacy Book Bar Pop-Up. We will be there Black Friday, Small Business Saturday, and then every Saturday leading up until Christmas. So if you want to purchase any of the books by the authors on this broadcast, you may do so in person or visit the website at www.legacybookbar.com. You guys have an amazing Saturday, and I will see you guys at the next event. Thank you so much, and thank you for joining us for the very first Legacy BookBar Book Summit. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, ladies.